Like, I'm like, how?
This is a song that we wrote, that I wrote with my friend Mike Richardson, who's from southern West Virginia, and it's about the coal mining wars in West Virginia in the 1920s, called the Battle of Blair Mountain. 2, 3, 4. Find a vein, drain the black gold. Open to God that the timbers hold. Like my father before me, it's all I know. We live only to harvest the coal, harvest the coal. Mine owner's mercy, about as shallow as a grave, a living in shanty towns. We ain't got no say. The 14-hour shifts, such a meager wage, and Mother Jones can't help us now anyway. Anyway, we take the roads, we take the trees by force. Oh, deliver us love from the gathering stores. Lay down your Bibles, take up your guns. Blair melted, here we come. Oh, here we come. Red bandanas that tell us what side you're on. Yeah, we're the rednecks of the Union 1921. We'll leave tonight at 13,000 strong and take the fight to Blair Mountain before the dawn, before the dawn. We'll take the roads, we'll take the trains by force. Oh, deliver us love from the gathering stores. Lay down your Bibles, take up your guns. Blair melted, here we come. Oh, here we come. Oh, I fight for my father, still buried in the mine. I fight for my son, so he'll have a better life. We're soldiers of a great war, and it don't seem right to treat a man like a dog just to make a dime, just to make a dime. We'll take the roads, we'll take the trains by force. Oh, deliver us love from the gathering stores. Lay down your Bibles, take up your guns. Blair melted, here we come. Oh, here we come. drain the black gold. You better hope to God that those timbers hold.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful.
I'm not a coal miner, as you well know, but I'm as close as I could be not to be one. My father was a coal miner who was killed in the mines, and my husband is slowly dying with black lung. And my husband and me was in the strike in the 30s in bloody Harlan County, and I do mean it is bloody too. And they tell me, these miners say, we're going to stick it out unless Duke Power signs the contract till hell freezes over. And the man knows they've got nothing to lose but their chains and their union to gain. So I say, hang in there. And now this song I composed in the 30s. And as you know, I'm old, that's 40 years ago, and I can't sing very well. But you can ask the scabs and the gun thugs which side they're on, because they're workers too. Come all you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old Union has come in here to dwell. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? If you go to Harlan County, there is no neutral there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair. Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell. Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? My daddy was a miner, and I'm a miner's son, and I'll stick with the Union till every battle's won. Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? They say in LA County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a scab for the boss, beware. Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab, or will you be a man? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Don't scare for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize. Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, which side are you on? Oh, side are you on? In 1900.
Hello, everybody. How we doing? Hello, 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 Lexi Darling. Hello, Quantum Mechanic. Hello, Banana Brains. Hello, Cat Bingo Rising Revengeance. Hello, Firecrafted Gaming. Hello, Comrade Girl 2018. Hello, Failsafe. Hello, Paladin Lost. Hello, Blueberry Bumblebee. Hello, Web Mage. Hello, the Knifiest Duck. Hello, Low Clarity. Hello, Mr. Lone Wolf. Hello, what it do? Hello, Brandan. Hello, T. Pritchett. Hello, Jay. Hello, Salty Turtle Cupcake. Hello, Hit the Mat. Hello, Trains and Bullshit. Hello, Nine-Tailed Witch. Hello, Bastion. Hello, Ali Alt. Hello, Blue. Hello, Punky Gal. Hello. I'm a little quiet. Look, I can't do anything about that. Sorry. Hello, Hand of Vecna. I'm also a lost YouTuber. That's all right. Hello, Liz Galahad. Spherical Man, thank you very much for subscribing. I very much appreciate that. How do? I've been a lot better. I gotta be completely honest with you guys. Not doing great mentally. So we're gonna do our best. But I mean, I gotta be honest. Today is, it's scary. It's scary. Curfews across LA, discussions of invading other other cities with the National Guard or military. It's a worrying state of affairs. Hello, Trains and Bullshit. Hello, Erica. Hello, Quiet Kitsune. Hello, the all-powerful Kagan. Hello, Tew Scoops. Hello, my rear end. Hello. Yeah, I mean, like, this is basically the best kind of political smokescreen for all of the fuck-ups in the Trump administration. Hey, Regington Mogus. I'm a few hours from LA, so my plan is to stick my head in the sand. Decent plan. So yeah, politics, huh? Is a very appropriate title for the mood of the day. Yeah, I thought so. Hello, Asen. Hello, cute dark arts. Hello, walking neon carpet. So getting political tonight, I see. Yeah, we're gonna try. We're gonna try our best. Can't get murdered with non-lethal munitions if you're inside. Yeah. Like, what did I miss? Just woke up? Just fascism. Fascist authoritarianism, Hello, Ashley J. Curtis.
I understand, after the protests in Santa Ana, CA, the feds decided to place a SN1 per on the federal building. Not gonna deter me to attend No Kings.
Hell yeah, Andrew S. Don't let them scare you. Like, it is very scary. But genuinely, like, these guys are the biggest pussies. Did you see footage of the woman getting tear gassed walking home? You're gonna have to be so much more specific, because I feel like I've seen a dozen videos like that. Hey, now pussies are tough? Yeah, you're right. I retract my pussy statement. Let's see. There we go. Chat. I'm really struggling. I'm doing my best. But mental health, staring into the abyss of what's currently happening day after day, is in the toilet. So we're going to do what we can today. We're going to talk a little bit about Zohran Mamdani's campaign. We're going to talk a little bit about, well, maybe a lot bit of Charlie Kirk going to Oxford and making a fool of himself, because that's fun. And then we might play some Dragon Age if we get that far, okay? Hello, Trans Rose Witch. Hope you're having a good night. I'm doing my best. I've had a pretty good night overall. My mental health just overall is bad. All right, let's go. Let's start out with Zohran, huh? I gotta hit the button, I guess. So, folks, there's this guy named Zohran Mamdani, right? Now, Zohran's running to be mayor of New York City, and that's a pretty important job. He's kind of come out of nowhere. You know, he's I believe the Albany Assemblyman, and he's done good work. He's gotten hundreds of millions of dollars for New York taxi drivers. He does good shit, right? However, last we checked in, he was about 40 points down against Andrew Cuomo. Let's check in. What are the vibes like over on the Zohran Mamdani campaign? Here's one of their recent ads.
My hands too much in these videos. So for this one, they're staying in my pockets. The other day on the subway, I met a New Yorker. But get this, they vote in California. I know this is true for many of you. You're Democrats who've chosen not to vote here because you believe your vote counts more elsewhere. Every 4 years, you vote absentee from your parents' address in Philly or 3 apartments and go in Atlanta. But come on, you live here. I get it, I do.
Keep them in your pockets.
Especially after this last election. We all wanted to defeat Donald Trump, and New York felt like a lock. But in many ways, this election, Trump's back on the ballot. We have a choice between Andrew Cuomo, funded by the same billionaires who put Donald Trump back in the White House, and our campaign, who will tax billionaires to make the city affordable. It's a referendum on where our party goes. So in just this one instance, ask yourself, WWDFGD, what would a disgraced former governor do? Well, Cuomo changed his registration immediately after not having lived here for more than 30 years. So if he's voting from his new address, so should you. With just single digits between us and Andrew Cuomo, your vote can make the difference. You have until June 14th, this Saturday, to change your registration to New York City. So head to ZohranForNYC.com/vote. Let's win this thing. I do.
Keep them in your pockets.
What an adorable campaign ad. The vibes are excellent. That was a trick, a ploy I used at the beginning of this video. The vibes are great. They're stellar. However, what are his endorsements doing like? I mean, he was 40 points down. Where could he possibly be endorsement-wise?
Puerto Rico
no se vende.
no se vende.
Puerto Rico no se vende.
Puerto Rico no se vende.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I am here loud and proud to rank Zohran Mamdani #1 for mayor of New York City. Early voting starts on June 14th. The primary election is June 24th. So early vote, fill out your ballots, and make sure that you do not rank Andrew Cuomo on your ballot. Don't do it, folks. We are going to rank our ballot Zohran #1 for a New York City that can be affordable to all of us.
Okay. So the endorsements are the most popular and well-liked politician in New York. Gotcha. Let's see here. Well, I mean, like, how could he possibly be doing? Let's take a look at a recent interview. A recent interview he did. Well, maybe he's hiding the desperation. We just need to find it in his voice. The way he presents himself. His body language will tell us everything.
Pix 11 is your election headquarters. In just a matter of days, New Yorkers will be heading to the polls for early voting in the Democratic mayoral primary.
And this morning, we're joined by Queens State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, whose recent surge in the polls and key endorsements has him.
Wait, is he the assemblyman from Queens, or, Wait. Okay, there's a big difference between body language experts are bullshit and people don't communicate with their bodies. Let's be real here. You do communicate with your body. You send a message by how you present yourself and how you hold yourself in public. Come on, guys. Do we have to have a fucking conversation about that before we even get deeper into the actual topic we're trying to tackle? Like, damn. Why did I think he was associated with Albany? I'm really confused by myself right now. He works out of Albany part-time. Yeah, he's missing in Albany. Oh! Okay, never mind. It's because he works in Albany. Jesus Christ. Yep. I feel really stupid. Incredible stuff. Yes, he represents Queens. Of course he doesn't work in Queens. He works in Albany. Jesus Christ. Damn it. Fuck. Yeah, yes, his office is there because it's the capital of the state, chat. I didn't forget. You all forgot. Shh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. Back to this.
Right on the heels of the leading contender, Andrew Cuomo. So good morning to you. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's
How
a
you
pleasure.
feeling?
Feeling good, feeling excited.
Good. I mean, there's a lot to digest here. So let's take a look at the stats, the numbers. You're in the polls. So the recent Pix 11 Emerson College Hill poll, you gained 23 points in recent days. You gained up 2 key endorsements from Latino lawmakers. You have Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Nydia Velázquez. But if you look at your biggest opponent, Andrew Cuomo, he just was endorsed by former opponent, State Senator Jessica Ramos. So it also appears that he's gaining Black and Latino voters. How are you taking this all in, and how do you analyze what the numbers are saying?
So we are right where we want to be. We have changed what was a 40-point race into one that is now in single digits. And that's because of the fact that New Yorkers are hungry for a different kind of politics, a politics that puts working people first. And to have the endorsements of Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and Nydia Velázquez, it is an incredible stamp of support from 2 of the leading fighters in our city and in our country for working class New Yorkers and Americans.
You have been outspoken in your support for Palestine. That puts you at odds with many in the city's large Jewish population. How can you, if you can, win them over at this time?
You know, I always think about what Mayor Koch said, which is if you agree with me on 9 out of 12 issues, vote for me. 12 out of 12, see a psychiatrist. And it's been a pleasure speaking to New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, including many Jewish New Yorkers, about my stance on universal human rights and my belief that there has to be an equal valuing of life, be it Israeli or Palestinian. And I've found many Jewish New Yorkers who support our campaign. It's why we're second with Jewish New Yorkers. And I've also found that with those who have disagreements with me on Israeli government policy, there's still an ability to understand that disagreement as being rooted in shared humanity.
You know, last week during the debate,
Like, he's just really good at diffusing, like, potentially hazardous questions, you know? Like, that's a difficult question to have lobbied at you, even if you know it's coming, and he's just effortlessly bats it away. It's great.
Andrew Cuomo had said that nobody really knows who you are. You don't have a lot of experience. And you've even admitted that there's quite a chunk of New Yorkers that don't know who you are. So how do you respond to that? And how do you work in the next couple of weeks to change that?
Well, you know, when we started this race, we were polling at 1%, and that was about the number of New Yorkers who knew who I was. And we have changed that over 7 months by building an unprecedented campaign. We have 34,000 volunteers. We knocked 15,000 doors in just the last 24 hours, and more than 900,000 now over the course of the campaign. And ultimately what it's showing is a campaign that is bringing so many New Yorkers into a political process that they historically haven't participated in. And that movement has meant that no matter what I'm doing in a day, there are so many more New Yorkers knocking on the doors of their neighbors to tell them about this campaign. And that has meant that we've gone from 1% now to being single digits away from winning this race. And, you know, about a quarter of New Yorkers have yet to hear from us, and that's our job over the next 2.5 weeks, is to introduce ourselves, introduce our campaign to make the most expensive city in America affordable.
I want to ask you, too, about what's going on.
Also, keep in mind, in like the span of a month, he closed in by like 23 points or something like that. Like he brought it down to like a gap of 12 points. I think that was the last I saw. It was either I think it went from 40 to 12. Or maybe I'm talking about some maybe I'm going to be talking about some better numbers in a minute or two.
In LA right now, days of protest, responses by the people to the White House's anti-migrant crackdown with the military there. Protests happening here as well. The NYPD taking those into custody over the weekend. As you are watching this unfold, are you thinking what you would do if you were in the position of mayor?
Absolutely. I think what we're seeing in Los Angeles is yet another example of the Trump administration's embrace of authoritarianism. We are seeing not just an attack on migrants, but an attack on the very fabric of this country. And we know that when the Trump administration does things like this, they are trial runs for what they would like to do elsewhere in the country. And it's not intellectual for us in New York City. We've already seen New Yorkers who have been detained, whether in their apartment building lobby or just going for a regular check-in. And this is personal to me. I moved to this city when I was 7 years old. I got my citizenship in this city. And it's a city that I love, and yet it's a city that I know for many immigrants, they are terrified now to get out of their home and walk around their own neighborhoods. And we need a mayor who will look authoritarianism in the eye and not see a reflection of themselves.
What would you do then to protect migrants?
I think there are a few things. The first is that we know there are city tools that can be used that would increase the likelihood of people remaining with their families. Namely, when an immigrant New Yorker is in detention proceedings, if they have legal representation, there's an 11-fold increase in their ability to stay at home. And so the city needs to start funding that legal representation. That's something that I would do. The other thing is to ensure that the NYPD are not serving as accomplices to what ICE is doing in this city. We have already seen ICE agents arrest immigrants who are going for regular check-ins at Federal Plaza, where blocks away from where I got my citizenship. And we have had a pastor be arrested by the NYPD. We have had New Yorkers who are standing up in opposition to that be arrested, thrown onto the ground, thrown into police vans. We do not need to be helping Donald Trump with his attempt to fulfill a campaign promise to build.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is the easiest argument to make in the world, right? Like, yeah, immigrants shouldn't be afraid to, like, report crimes to police. Yeah, you should, in fact, fund the programs that allow undocumented immigrants to get representation in immigration court. Like, that should be just kind of a given. I think any normal person listening to this man would be like, yeah, no, that all makes sense. We should do that.
the largest deportation force this country has ever seen.
On the issue of public safety, gun violence, do you support hiring more NYPD officers to kind of help with those issues?
I support sustaining the number that we have today. And the reason that I say that is when I speak to police officers, I know they have a critical role in creating public safety. And I also know from them that they joined the force to take on serious crimes. But they are now being asked to respond to nearly every failure of the social safety net. The same officer who thought he was going to be responding to shootings is having to pick up the phone for mental health calls. And that's true for the department, which now has hundreds of thousands of those calls they deal with a year. So we've put forward a proposal to create a Department of Community Safety that would focus on the mental health crisis and gun violence, scaling up evidence-based policies that have already worked in the city and across the country, and allowing police to focus on serious crimes and ensuring that they can resolve far more cases than the 35% that they were able to resolve in the first quarter of this year.
You know, obviously public safety is a huge concern.
And that's the whole thing, right? Like he's the rhetoric he uses lays out a pathway for his policies to result in, well, like ultimately his argument that he ends on is, I think police should be able to have the time and resources they need to solve more cases. And that's a pretty ironclad, like, that I think that resonates with a whole lot of people, even if they've been brain poisoned by Law and Order, you know?
For the folks here in New York. But the one thing, well, I should say the two things that New Yorkers, their ears perk up is when they hear you say that you're going to put a rent freeze, make sure that happens, and also free city buses. How are you going to do that?
So there's two clear ways. The first is a rent freeze applies to rent stabilized tenants. There's more than 2 million New Yorkers who live in those kinds of apartments. And the mayor has the power to do that through something called the Rent Guidelines Board. Composed of 9 members, the mayor appoints each one. Previous mayor froze the rent 3 times. It's just a question of political will. And it's why the landlords of those units, their lobby group just donated $2.5 million to Andrew Cuomo, because they know what I know. He's going to raise the rent, I'm going to freeze the rent. So it's a good business investment for them to get on the side of the landlords, whereas tenants know that I'm the person who's going to put nearly $7 billion back into their pockets into our local economy. And buses would cost about $700 million a year to make free. Now, this is something that the city would pay in part, but the state would be a large partner in this. And I've put forward a plan that would match the state's top corporate.
Well, and my question is, fair enforcement for buses in New York. I wonder how much the mechanisms that New York City has to like enforce bus fares, I wonder how much that costs the city every year. You know, like it's $700 million to make it free, but how much are we saving by making it free? You know, it's a trade-off.
Tax rate of 7.25% to that of New Jersey, 11.5%. Just matching our regional neighbor raises $5 billion a year. That could make free buses, you know, a reality about 5-6 times over.
Very quickly, for smaller landlords who say, I'm not making what the big guys make, how can you protect them and freeze rents?
So this is a very good question because of the fact that we've seen this mayor not just exacerbate a cost of living crisis for tenants, but also for homeowners and for landlords, right? This is a mayor who said he would fix the property tax system. He's instead defended it in court and lost every time. That's a property tax system that makes it very difficult to maintain that housing. Additionally, he's raised the water bill to the highest in 13 years. He supported Con Ed when they wanted to increase the gas and electric by $65 a month. I know that because I was in those negotiations on the other side. So to those small homeowners whose statistics may not match up with the larger picture of a 12% increase in profits for those landlords, there is a relief program they can apply to if they open their books and show that their ratio isn't where it needs to be. But they will also know that I'll be a mayor fighting to reduce their costs as well.
All right, well, thank you so much. The big issues here. Zohran Mamdani, thank you for coming by this morning.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure.
Right,
And Pix 11, I'm sorry, also hosting a forum with the Democratic mayoral candidates asking key questions about the future of New York City. It's tomorrow, Wednesday, June 11th.
Ooh, tomorrow evening at, we'll have to watch at 5:30. We'll see what we can do. I might not be able to do it right live, but we can take a look when it's maybe an hour or two later if I'm not up for covering it live. When is the primary? The primary is in like 20 days, 19 days, like a little over 2 weeks, you know? It's going to be very, very interesting. this is kind of like the do or die moment. You know, I heard on the Majority Report earlier today that apparently Richie Torres is thinking about running for governor if Andrew Cuomo wins. And if Zohran Mamdani wins, Richie Torres is not going to seek the governorship. So Zohran really needs to like wrap this up, because we can't have Richie Torres be a governor. We can't. It's not. We shouldn't allow him in office. You know. Dude is well, dude sucks, frankly. Now let's take a look at one of Zohran Mamdani's other more recent ads, because guys, he's been doing even better. Who's Richie Torres? Richie Torres is a guy who sucks in the U.S. government, in Congress.
Good morning, New York City. I know getting back on your feet after a long holiday weekend is tough, but here's some news that'll put some pep in your step. Like all campaigns, we hired a research firm to poll New Yorkers. What they just found? It's very exciting. Let's start with the headlines. We're now at 27% in the first round of ranked choice voting, firmly in second place behind Andrew Cuomo, with the next campaign in single digits. And in the final round, after every other candidate's been eliminated, it's us at 44% and Cuomo at 56%. That's a 12-point gap. In March, it was 40 points. And we've gotten here while a third of New Yorkers still haven't heard of us. That means we're nowhere near our ceiling. That's where you come in. Yes, we're gonna have more rallies, more TV ads, more videos like this, and that's all thanks to your contributions. Just this past weekend, our volunteers passed 600,000 doors knocked. No one else is even in the same galaxy, let alone the same neighborhoods. With less than a month to go, we're going to win a city that New Yorkers can actually afford and send Andrew Cuomo back to the suburbs.
Hell yeah, let's go, Zohran! So, 40 points down, 12 points down, and this video came out, let's see. This video came out 13 days ago, right? Well, fun fact, everyone. New polling came out today from the Center, or what's it called? Center for Progress. And, oh, sorry, Data for Progress. And, you know, very interesting findings here, but let's just go to the most interesting part. Towards the end here. In the final round, projected based on this polling, we have Zohran Mamdani at 49 to Andrew Cuomo at 51. That is a 2-point gap from data made available today. So, we've got like a little over 2 weeks. About 2 weeks ago, that last video that we just saw, that last ad, came out. In 2 more weeks, if we can keep up the momentum in New York City, Zohran Mamdani might be the primary candidate. Okay? Now, other polling came out today that showed that Zohran's still down by 12. So, you know, polling may vary, but I gotta say, guys, I'm feeling good about this. I'm feeling good about it. Like, this is some good ass news. If you are in New York City, or if you're around New York City, go knock some doors for Zohran. And you know what? Phone bank for Zohran Mamdani too. Get out there. All right? It's really, really exciting. But remember, folks, if you're in New York City or you know someone in New York City, make sure they are registered to vote before the 14th, which is 4 days from now. And make sure you get people door knocking. You get people phone banking. Do the things, okay? Yes, the phone bank for Zohran Mamdani link. Thank you very much. Sorry, you're blue. Here you go. If you guys want to sign up to phone bank for Zohran, get in there. Get in there. Okay? We need to get our man. We need to get him in. So, let's get it done. I don't know. This isn't like a very good segment. I really fucked it up. But message stands. Go do the thing. Go be active. Go be political and change things for the better here. Okay? We have a chance. We have an opportunity. Don't fuck it up. Who the fuck would vote for Cuomo anymore? He gives off literal mob boss energy. Yeah, but like some people like that, you know? Folks, if you're enjoying the stream, please hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, like the goddamn YouTube stream. Please consider supporting, with subs, donos, memberships, super chats, etc. Because you guys make this show possible, and I literally couldn't do it without you guys. I don't remember if I said thank you to Spherical Man for subscribing with Prime earlier. Thank you very much, Spherical Man. And, yeah, thanks for being the first person to support stream. Let's see. Corporatists could still rat fuck Zoran in November. Yeah, let's worry about it when we get there, you know? I did say thanks for that sub. Thank you. I'm a bit scatterbrained today. I'm not doing so hot. All right. A lot of near-dead old people like voting another lich back into office. It's true. Politics is going crazy right now, huh? It absolutely is. LA's nuts. Just got off work? Yeah. Yeah, Donald Trump is trying to paint this as a foreign invasion because people are waving Mexican flags. You know, because he's a moron and the people who like him are morons. When does the cool zone end? I don't know. It lasts as long as it lasts, guys. You know? Friend of the channel, Dead Domain, is in LA currently. Well, I hope they're staying safe. Okay, folks. Are you ready to have some fun? Are you guys ready to, like, relax a little bit and laugh at a conservative's expense? Ashley, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs.
Time to raise the BWA. Stay strong and fight for your right to exist.
Thank you for the incredibly generous 5 tier 1 subs and for raising that BWA up. Let's get it out of the dirt, people. Let's go. Let's do the Dugadoo. Hell yeah. Robert Stan, I don't know why you're talking about landlords. Is it unrelated? Oh my god. Sorry. Also, ranked choice is going to mess with things. Yeah, absolutely. But I think it messes up in Zoran's favor. Very Knifey Duck, thank you for
Duck
the $5
here.
dono.
Just wanted to remind you all that good chatters like the stream. You want to be a good chatter, don't you? Yes, you do. Go like the stream. Do it.
New Zohran Mamdani ad. Well, I don't. Why not?
There is a myth about this city. It's the lie that life has to be hard in New York. I believe we can guarantee cheaper groceries, we can raise the minimum wage, we can freeze the rent for more than 2 million tenants and build hundreds of thousands of affordable homes. It's city government's job to deliver that. We are done settling for less. Are you ready for a city we can afford? Are you ready to win this race?
Paid for by Zohran for NYC.
Dude's just inspiring. Like, genuinely, I can see him being the face of a new political movement, you know? He's incredible. Hello, Van Briggs.
Zohran is hopefully a good roadmap for the DNC to not screw us over in 26 and 28.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like the graphic design on his campaign is good. Like the music, the direction, the editing, like it's all so fucking good. He got a really solid team for this. All right. Here we go, folks. Also, Lawrence, thank you for the $5 super chat. Appreciated. So, folks, there's this guy named Charlie Kirk, and he went to Cambridge. Except you probably already know that, because he went to Cambridge like a few weeks ago, and now he's going to Oxford. And he just put out a video titled Charlie Kirk versus 300 Oxford students, and you know, I just had a really good time watching him get obliterated at Cambridge, and I don't think it's going to go better for him at Oxford. So I'm excited to take a look at this and laugh along with the rest of you at his weird tiny face. Let's dive in, shall we?
Strong men built the West and won the wars and built the building that we're in right now. And without strong men, then you all of a sudden see civilization unfold upon itself, and we're seeing that happen in real time.
Oh my God, he's such a numbnuts.
Charlie Kirk is the founder and president of Turning Point USA, a prominent conservative youth organization with a presence of over 2,000 high school and college campuses across the United States. He served as the chairman of Students for Trump, which focused on mobilizing young voters during the 2020 presidential election. Kirk is the host of the podcast The Charlie Kirk Show and maintains a social media presence following with high levels of engagement across all platforms. So please welcome me introducing Charlie Kirk.
Man, he just has no riz whatsoever. I've never been a fan of the sneakers and suit look. I don't think it works. I've never seen anyone pull off sneakers and suit. Except maybe like a charming elderly man, you know, like where you're just like, "Ah, you tried," you know?
Welcome.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to go straight into it. So some of my first questions are regarding immigration. So you've argued the 14th Amendment has been misapplied to undocumented immigrants. And if so, you oppose birthright citizenship. And if you do oppose birthright citizenship, what alternative system would you propose for determining who is automatically a citizen? And how would you address the risk of creating a legally precarious or stateless class of US-born children?
Okay. It's a good question. And first of all, thank you for having me, and great to be here, everybody. So if you don't, I was amazed. I was at the other place yesterday, so we hope that you guys are going to be even better, right? We'll see what happens. I was amazed by how much you guys care about American politics and you know about our system of government. So if you don't know,
I was amazed at how much you all knew that one of the world's superpowers, political systems that affect everyone.
I'm just going to kind of just give you a quick overview. So we have the 14th Amendment. It was one of the post-Civil War amendments. It's been used to applied for a lot of different things. One of the ways that it's been debated is this idea of birthright citizenship. So birthright citizenship is that currently in America, you could fly from Beijing, China, 9 months pregnant, land in San Francisco, go to the hospital, and your baby is a full U.S. passport holder, full U.S. citizen. No reservations, no asterisk, nothing at all whatsoever. So that is what's called birthright citizenship. Most of the rest of the world doesn't have it. I don't even think you guys have it here in Britain, where you could just come into the country and have a baby and you get a passport and you become a full citizen. So the question is, does the 14th Amendment apply to the children of non-citizens? Well, the Supreme Court ruled in the late 1890s in what's called the Wong case that it does apply to the children of permanent residents.
No, it doesn't.
And well, since 1890, I think it was 1898 or something.
I love that his argument that is basically that, well, birthright citizenship currently exists, but, what if it didn't? And then you look at him and you're like, but it does. And he's like, but what if, sure, it's been interpreted to mean this in the way you're talking about it for hundreds of years, but what if it didn't, though? It's like genuinely like an attempt to play like a reverse Uno card, but like no one's playing Uno, and I don't get it.
Things similar to that. It has not yet been decided or adjudicated whether or not illegal immigrants or non-American, non-permanent resident, non-U.S. passport, non-green card holders and their children can get birthright citizenship. I think that we should join the rest of the world, including your country, and not give just full U.S. citizenship for people that come on birth tourism to the United States.
Thank you. So then what is the alternative system you propose? Because I know the UK has a similar system, but I think Ireland still has kind of like the birthright system state and stuff like that. So what would be your alternative?
Well, to the birthright citizenship question, just get rid of it.
And replace?
Well, there should be no replacement, meaning that if you want to come to the United States of America, apply like everybody else and get in line, and you don't get to show up pregnant and have...
I love that Charlie Kirk is like, yeah, get in line, fetus. Yeah, I'm expecting that fetus to pay the thousands of dollars it takes to enter the country and get a passport. I want that fetus to navigate that bureaucracy.
Have a child, and that child becomes a full U.S. citizen.
So in terms of situations where like the parent has been an undocumented immigrant for a couple of years or decades at this point, and they're having children, where does that leave the children? Do we then create like a state of like basically people who don't have kind of like documentation?
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. They do not become U.S. citizens. So our belief is that we should deport everyone who is in our country illegally back to their country of origin. Something that finally your Labor Prime Minister is waking up and saying he wants to do. I hope he actually does it, but it's quite a...
Keir Starmer is such a piece of shit. You know, it's really frustrating to see what's going on in the UK these days.
Concept that you're not allowed to come into a country unless you're invited. And so we in the United States just won a popular vote election, a popular vote majority and electoral vote majority under the idea that we want mass deportations. So if you are in our country illegally, the United States, it is our plan to return you back to your country of origin as a full family unit.
Okay, thank you. And then talking about kind of the idea of mass deportation and basically Trump winning an election and that, we've seen recently that he's been expediting the refugee applications of white South Africans, claiming they are victims of racial discrimination. Considering what you've just said about kind of mass deportation being the view, what do you think justifies the embrace of white South African immigrants, white South African immigrants and their temporary legal protections that Trump is granting them?
Well, for one, one of the leading political parties in South Africa is saying that we should kill the Boer over and over again in a endorsed chant from the top leaders in a political rally saying that we should go kill the white South African farmer. You can look
again, white genocide. I need to remind folks, white genocide is the idea coined by a Nazi in prison for helping to assassinate a Jewish broadcaster. The same guy who invented the 14 words of white supremacy. And like, there is no white genocide happening in South Africa. It's just not happening. Now, where does the term, what is the history of Kill the Boer? The history of that song is as a resistance song to the colonizing Boer families that colonized and subjugated the surrounding lands. Like, it is a you know, at this point,
They
hundreds
don't
of
want
year
just
old
mass
song.
deportation. They
you
want
know?
deportation for 49 other states too.
True. Saki Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. So it just, you know, I just want y'all to know that, like, when Charlie Kirk is pushing this idea that, like, oh, there's a white genocide in South Africa, there's not. What's happening in South Africa is sporadic crime. It's not a genocidal operation. Like, it's the same way that, like, people who in the United States believe that there is a white genocide against white Americans to replace them with black people because, like, the proportion of the population that's white has declined. Like, it's silly. It's nonsense. It's not, there isn't an actual genocide happening. It's just people are moving to the country and or having babies, you know?
Look at videos of crosses that will fill roads for miles of white South African farmers that have been brutally murdered in their home, basically because of what is called...
Oh, also, these South African farmers, there is some evidence that at least some of those photo ops and drone footage things that have been circulating in conservative circles are fake. That they were faked in order to push this narrative.
Land reparations at worst. So this is at best, and then there's another word that we could use for it, which we'll see if it actually qualifies for that as time goes on. But yes, I mean, this is a group where a government has decided that we are endorsing the worst and most venomous form of racial hatred against white South African landowners, and they're fleeing appropriate asylum with the United States. Hilariously, it's only been like 25 people that have received this asylum, and the American leaders have been
Weird. I thought there were a lot more white people in South Africa. I thought you were alleging like a genocidal level of violence here, Charlie. Like, why are only 25 of them coming here? That's weird if they're being like systematically eliminated in their society. Come on, man. Like, do you understand how full of shit that makes you look? And I know it's because you are full of shit, but still. Julius Malema is fringe and not part of the ANC. That doesn't surprise me that Charlie is, you know, fudging the facts, we'll say.
completely okay with every other type of person on the planet to be granted asylum. Like 15 million people they want to grant asylum. But when 15 white South Africans want to show up to the United States and have asylum because there's actually an endorsed mantra and chant to kill them, all of a sudden there's a major issue. I wonder why.
Thank you. So then, considering that, so if it applies to, for example, Nigerian Christians being killed in Nigeria, and other kind of like world atrocities,
Why
we're
does
seeing
Charlie
across
look
the
like
world where
Santa's
people
in?
are
Yeah, I see the resemblance.
in a vulnerable position, you would agree then that they also should have their
It
applications?
can. Again, it's a case-by-case basis. And if one of the leading political parties in Nigeria, whether it be the Muslim or the Christian faction, was outwardly saying we must kill the Muslims or we must kill the Christians, we're a very generous country. We're willing to look at all the cases associated. I happen to know the South African one better than the Nigerian one. I mean, Nigeria is the most populated country in Africa, so it's not unreasonable that something like this could happen. But the United States of America is a generous country. We've been known when it meets the criteria that we are a place that you can find safe refuge. The problem is our asylum process has become a scam the last 15 years where people from countries just that have high crime rates are able to say that I am fleeing violence to come to the United States of America.
That's you are describing what you did for white South Africans. There are only 25 coming in. It's even more scam-like, man.
Well, guess what? The United States is also very, very violent. You go to Chicago.
Yeah, genuinely, this is just nonsense. This is just another symptom of how Republicans just don't give a shit about arguing about facts anymore. They just want to, like, live in their own la-la land. You know, it's bullshit.
Go to Philadelphia. It's not exactly a good cause or good claim. And that is in a bad way. That is a way where our compassion as Americans is being taken advantage of for an ulterior political motive.
Thank you so much.
If your portfolio is over $250,000 and you aren't hedged, you are sitting on a ticking time bomb. Markets are at all-time highs, but history shows, you know what comes next: volatility and increased risk. A 10% allocation to gold and silver can help hedge uncertainty and protect your wealth. Noble.
I'm trying. Is this AI?
Percent allocation to gold and silver can help hedge uncertainty and protect your wealth.
I'm wondering if this is
Noble Gold Investments makes it easy to hedge your portfolio with
I'm trying to figure out if it's AI, like he did AI video,
institutional grade
or just
gold
AI
and silver.
sound.
Right now, every qualified investment will receive a free 10-ounce gold coin and protect your portfolio today. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
Moving on slightly to a different topic, which is abortion. Currently, there is a woman who's been declared brain dead in Georgia and is being kept on life support because the state's restrictive abortion laws that ban abortion after cardiac activity is detected, generally at 6 weeks. So I want to basically ask you, your thoughts on that and how you think kind of like the pro-life arguments apply.
I'm having a hard time hearing. So you said there's a woman in Georgia that's
Yeah.
on life support because she was not able to get an abortion?
So she's being kept on life support because she still has this baby in her womb. And
She has a what? I'm sorry.
She still has this baby, but she's like brain dead, completely brain dead.
She still has a baby?
Yes, but
Okay.
she's being kept on life support just because of this baby. And this is just due to the state's restrictive abortion laws that ban abortion after cardiac activity is detected.
So I don't know enough about the case. Why is she on life support? Is it a pregnancy-induced ailment or is it a unrelated?
Separately ill, but the idea is she's completely brain dead. So basically the
Yes.
only thing that's keeping her alive is this machine because of the baby, due to restrictive abortion laws.
Yes, I mean, that baby is going to be able to live, praise God. And that mom will now, her parting gift to the world will be another life. I think that's beautiful. Unless there's an element of the case I'm missing, like she has pregnancy-induced sepsis or there's something related to the case that I'm not aware, because I do believe in the exception for the life of the mother, but that doesn't sound like that's what this case is.
So to be clear, like the mother is dead, and like she's
Well, hold
being
on. How
kept
is she
alive.
dead if she can?
She's being kept
Hold
alive.
on a second. How
unless-
is she dead if you can gestate a baby?
You know, there's in a weird way here, it really demonstrates how men like Charlie Kirk view women. You know? And Charlie here really comes across as somebody who only values women for what their wombs can do. You know, like, oh, I don't understand how is she dead if she can gestate a baby. Like, she's fit as a fiddle. Like, meanwhile, like, her brain is dead and dying. Like, one of the aspects of this case that they haven't mentioned is that this woman is brain dead, right? No thoughts, not conscious, like brain fully dead. But she's attached to life support. So, that's keeping certain parts of her body alive, but as time goes on, her body's falling apart because she's dead. Like, you can't just keep a dead body hooked up to machines and keep it alive indefinitely, you know? And so, like, Charlie's just like, well, she's alive. How could she be dead? And it's just, it's really gross. Like, the family would like to, you know, let her die with dignity.
The Georgia case is some truly Ixian shit. Frank Herbert predicting the future about 8K years early.
Yeah, true. Socket Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs.
Why can a corpse support maggots? Obviously, there's life in there.
I mean, yeah, that is the level of argumentation he's on, you know? It's... And so, I guess my question is, number one, I find it very unlikely that, like, keeping her on life support is going to result in, like, a healthy baby or a baby that can survive. Number one. And number two, like, meanwhile, her loved ones just watch her, like, fall apart like a real-life zombie in a film. It's disgusting, you know? Well, doctors, like, day after day, like, violate her corpse. It is repulsive and disgusting. And, like, Charlie's response to that is, what's the problem? She could still gestate a baby, can't she? Like, that's pretty fucking gross.
She's brain dead.
But she's not dead. Hold on a second. She's brain dead, but let's re-examine what being dead means. How can...
Look at how pleased he is with himself. It's so disgusting. Like, he's smugly smiling. Like, let's evaluate this for a second. Meanwhile, every minute that passes, the family of this woman is going to be stuck with greater and greater medical debt because they are being forced to pay the cost for keeping their brain dead child alive in order to try and give birth. It's disgusting. Honestly, like, it is a level of malicious necromancy that is genuinely shocking. Like, if your dungeon master at, like, at the table ever tried to pull this shit, like, you would never go back. And Charlie Kirk's just kind of smug and smiling about it. It's gross. It's so gross.
You actually have a baby fully develop within you if you're dead. And that's what's always so interesting. People that are called dead, they could still get pregnant. Women who are dead still menstruate. They still, when they are stabbed, their adrenaline levels go up. And again, this goes back to the fundamental question of what is a human being?
Oh my God. It got so much worse. It got so much worse. That got so much fucking worse. Worse. Holy fuck. Charlie. Straight to jail, man. A woman who is dead, who can still have a baby, can still feel pain if you stab them. This is like genuine serial killer shit.
And when does life begin? And it would be very interesting. Shouldn't the question also be, I don't know what her wishes are. Do we know her wishes or not? Or
Well, the thing is, again, she's brain dead. She can't give us her wishes.
Well, no,
but
I'm
her
saying
family,
though, but hold on a second.
Her family
Again,
have made it
she
very
could have
clear.
prior to this of the pregnancy said, "I want to do whatever is possible to save my baby." So that's not a dumb question.
Yes,
okay?
but I'm not saying it's a dumb question.
Okay, so we don't know. So therefore, since we don't know her wishes, we should yield on the side of life. And if that baby is able to survive and the mom dies,
disgusting.
I mean, that is of course the moral thing to do.
Surely, considering her family is kind of like, please have been to basically save her first, which is obviously not possible anymore. But
I'm sorry. So the family wants to save the mom, but you said she's brain dead, so
Yes.
there's no way to save her.
So my point is
she's simply just a vessel for a life.
Let her
Do you
ask
think
the
that's
question.
okay for women to just be vessels for life?
No, of course not. In this extreme case, though, which is a moral question of if you terminate the mom, the baby dies. If you can keep the mom, quote unquote, alive long enough, another life enters the world. That is a morally great thing for humanity to be able to say another life comes into the world when someone who is brain dead would otherwise have no contribution to the species.
But what if this continues when we see more restrictive abortion laws in different states?
Well, we're not. This case that you're saying actually proves my point that she doesn't have agency, she doesn't have consciousness, so we should yield on the side of the protection of the human being in utero.
So here's my point. The reason why we have this case happening in the first place is because of how restrictive the abortion laws. So here's my point.
Abortion should be banned in the United States of America, and we're well on our way to do that.
Well, so
yes, correct, completely, except for the life of the mother.
Okay, so in the exception of the life of the mother, you agree that that should be. But in this
Man, I hope these students tear his asshole.
case where we basically have these women being vessels as brain dead individuals, and we're continuing to carry these pregnancies to full term.
Yeah, guys, keep in mind, he's a Christian nationalist. Of course he's going to say that he wants, like, abortion banned in all circumstances in the United States. And remember, folks, just throwing out there, there's no such thing as an abortion exception. There's no such thing as an abortion exception, right? People talk about abortion. They talk about, well, like, well, you know, you can't get an abortion, but, I mean, if the life of the mother's in danger, you can get one. Well, who decides when the life of the mother is in danger? Who decides how much danger is acceptable? You know, even if you have an exception like that, there are still going to be hospitals that say, we're not going to do it because we don't know. We might be held legally liable. And, well, okay, but what about in the case of, like, rape or incest? How many times have you seen a rape or incest
Can't
case?
help but notice that Charlie Kirk said, "Life of the mother," multiple times, but never brings up those other exceptions that other less ghoulish politicians used to bring up.
Yeah, well, he did talk about impregnating a corpse, so I'm not surprised. Very Knifey Duck, thank you for the $5 dono. But, like, how many of you have seen a rape or incest case wrapped up within 9 months? How many of you have ever seen that happen in your lives? They're usually long, drawn out, and pretty awful affairs. And hey, guess what? It taking longer than 9 months, you're gonna be having that baby. So, like, again, these exceptions aren't real. You can have them on the books all you want, but they aren't real. Did I hear you right? Did you just say someone tried to impregnate a freaking corpse? Charlie Kirk was talking about how you can impregnate corpses. So, you know, that's where the Republican movement is right now. It's disgusting.
Do you think this is, like, morally okay in terms of what if the woman says no beforehand, she doesn't want to be carried as a
I guess
vessel?
the question I would pose to you or anybody else, what is the moral difference between the baby and the womb and her? One is older? Are they not both human beings? I mean, why all of a sudden that we're able to say that she's older and more developed, that you can eliminate the smaller being? Why is that okay? Under what moral standard it is okay to eliminate beings smaller than you, or because that you've been developed more? In fact, we should, as humanity, say, under this very extreme case, and thank you for bringing it to my attention, I'm actually going to talk about it, because it might be used as like a way to, like, put us on defense, but in some ways, it shows that we value both human beings, that mom who might not have nothing else to give, again, the last thing that her body can actually do is to have another life, her offspring enter into the world. And of course,
which would be fine if we knew that's what she wanted. Like, if we knew that, if she had, like, a living will that indicated that she was willing to do that, fine. But, like, we don't have that. And so, on the one hand, you have the possibility that this is totally fine with her. On the other hand, you have a very real possibility that this is absolutely not what someone would ever want their dead corpse to go through. Like, god damn. Dude really only thinks of women as, like, walking wombs. It's gross.
In more ways than one, we desperately need term limits.
At the very least for Charlie Kirk, it would have benefited us immensely.
I will defend that, because every human life is exceptionally and uniquely made, and we believe in universal human equality, the first of which is life.
Okay, thank you. So some other abortion-related questions, kind of like touching on what you said. You've kind of talked about, obviously, the safety of the mother being like the only kind of like bar in which you
Also,
think abortion.
Tipster, thank you for the raid.
Yeah. So what about abortions in cases of sexual assault or rape?
Yeah, so again, let's just say I have 2 ultrasounds here. One of the ultrasound is a baby that is conceived in rape. The other one is from a loving marriage. Do we know which one is which? So they're both human beings and they both deserve human rights. Someone in this audience was conceived in rape. Do you know who? Tell me. Do they look different? Do they get less rights? Are you not able to have free speech rights because you're a rape baby? No, we believe in universal human equality regardless of how horrific or evil the method of conception is.
Yeah. So if we believe in universal equality and universal rights, does that include the right to bodily autonomy? I'm guessing that Charlie would usually say yes, but for some reason on this topic, I think he would flip and say no.
That is what built the West, and I will continue to defend that.
So then what happens in cases when the baby that is a product of rape or sexual assault is mistreated, is abused?
That's a separate issue. There's plenty of babies that are in loving monogamous marriages that are mistreated and abused.
That are the product of rape? That, like, again, the chances are that they get born into the household of the rapist?
Separate. There is no correlation. There's no moral justification to say that I think, or I even have data that that baby will be abused or mistreated, therefore murder is okay.
I mean, there is correlation, I think. It's very clear when they've been perceived in very, very horrific situations. The mother specifically as well is obviously, in terms of mentally, the impact they have on her, that still the mother has to raise that baby all the way till 18 years old.
Still not a justification for murder. And if you think that abortion is just a medical procedure or cosmetic type.
See, again, this is why my go-to argument is just to say, okay, I grant you the full humanity of the fetus, even though I think that, like, I think we can have a lot of debate on that one, okay? But even if you grant that, and you're just like, okay, it's a human being, full equal rights. You still have you have your bodily autonomy. In this case, your bodily autonomy trumps the right of that other fully fledged human's bodily autonomy. Like, it's just no one could force you. I mean, I guess historically, to have your body misused in the past. You know, you typically, when you die, still maintain, like, your bodily autonomy. Your bodily autonomy is still respected in our society. You know, we don't go, like, harvest your organs and then, you know, against your will and then disperse them across the country. Instead, we, you know, respect your wishes. Generally, I guess, prior to the overturn of Roe v. Wade, of course. However, again, even in this circumstance, your body is being used. You can simply say, I don't want it to be used that way. You have every right to do that, even if, like, we grant the full personhood of a fetus.
Intervention, no different than getting plastic surgery. Women have regrets after abortion. They have psychological trauma. Again, the question is, do we
Yeah, I wonder if people have regrets or psychological trauma after giving birth to a baby. Charlie?
defend human life universally as a statement? And if the question is, I'm going to just kind of, well, I can eliminate the smaller life because I have regret of a sexual encounter I had, then I find great question with that. On the rape thing, though, to your point, it is the hardest thing that we have to defend on its surface. Rape is awful and terrible. Rapists should be castrated and put in life for jail the rest of their life.
Sorry, what? Okay, so we are 15 minutes into his appearance at Oxford here, folks, and Charlie Kirk has already revealed that he thinks of women as walking wombs. He's talked about stabbing corpses to get adrenaline reactions. He's talked about impregnating corpses, and now we have him talking about castrating criminals. Like, that's, like, I'm sorry, but there's a reason why, like, for example, in our prison system, our criminal justice system, we don't, like, sentence people to be tortured, you know? Like, we don't have torture dungeons. At least that's not what our prison system is supposed to be, okay? But Charlie's just like, yeah, what if we just chopped off your body part when you got arrested? That's the kind of ideal society I believe in, and it's just like, what the hell, man? What is wrong with you?
The more important fundamental question is, under what moral standard?
Also, he's saying this at Oxford, like one of the most prestigious institutions on the planet, and dude's like absolutely gone wild. It's crazy.
It is okay to do something evil after an evil act when a life is eliminated. One of the most powerful things I get to do is go down college campuses, and all the time I meet young kids that were babies, that were scheduled for abortions, that were conceived in rape, and they are full citizens of America that are flourishing and doing.
This is happening to you all the time? That's weird.
Amazing things. And I believe that we should get back to this idea that all human beings are equal regardless of how you entered the world.
Again, you can acknowledge that and still be in favor of abortion.
Thank you. Then considering, obviously, you've talked about how we need more abortion restrictions, but we're also seeing low birth rates in America and also in the West as a whole. How do you think they interact with each other, and do you think they're related?
I'm sorry, just to make sure I'm hearing the question. And it's not your fault. It's the acoustics. You said falling fertility rates and abortion rates?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So we actually already have a window into this. In Texas, we have completely abolished surgical abortion. You could still do an at-home abortion, which is mifepristone, I think is what it's called. And birth rates are up. About 200,000 new babies net over the last 18 months in Texas versus the years prior. And so, yeah, I mean, in the UK and America, we wouldn't need as many third world immigrants if we didn't kill our babies all the time in the womb.
Thank you very much. My next question is slightly a larger picture, considering not abortion, but just the treatment of men and women. So what do you think the role of red pill media is in the men's rights movement?
Okay, I'm bored. We're going to skip ahead to the debate.
Yes. The Tay-Sachs fetus is equal to a healthy fetus for a couple weeks.
Saki Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. Appreciated. Thank you for supporting the stream, guys. It helps me to not die. Chris Huggins, thank you for being a member for a year.
Jack, I can't stay long and soon we'll go to sleep. I wanted to see what's up.
Well, thank you very much for coming. Hope you enjoy the ride. We're jumping ahead here to the Q&A portion because, or the debate portion, because I genuinely don't know that we're going to get anything nearly as good out of Charlie Kirk as what he did in the first 15 minutes. So let's take a look how this goes. Okay. All right.
Going to shoot to Q&A. So
one of the best.
The show trial will begin.
Yes.
I think one of the best ways to bolster an argument, to construct an argument, is to foresee potential counter-arguments and to address them. And because you've been doing this for quite some time and you're well-versed in what you believe, in your ideologies and your beliefs, if you were in my position, what would you ask yourself that would be most effective in challenging those core tenets?
Thank you for that question. I didn't expect that. So respectful and thoughtful. I don't know if you're a liberal or not. I don't know, but because it's implied in your question that you are. Is that correct or not? Because you said, what would you believe as your core tenets? I don't know. But anyway, do you want to remark?
I take it as a compliment.
Okay,
No.
great. Okay, that's fine. Always come into every conversation believing that you might be wrong and that you might learn something.
Charlie Kirk is incapable of actually approaching any conversation that way. You know, like Charlie Kirk is prohibited by the nature of his propagandistic profession from doing that.
And you guys go here to a ridiculously old institution that has some of the greatest thinkers that I admire, Tolkien, Lewis, I mean, the list goes on. And
Tolkien, Lewis, you know, whoever else went to Harvard, I don't know. The list goes on, presumably.
I don't know the core canon of what you are studying, but I can definitely tell you in America, there is a de-emphasis of the thinkers and of the writers that were once, let's just say, embedded within the core curriculum of a place like this. And I would encourage all of you that are intellectually honest, that are on the left, that are liberals, to know what conservatives believe better than conservatives. Read our literature. Read C.S.
God, we don't need to read the literature, man. I mean, we can if we want a good laugh, but like, you tell us what you guys believe all the time. It's not difficult to ascertain.
Lewis Mere Christianity. Go read Edmund Burke. Go read Russell Kirk, of which I share a name, no relation. Go read Milton Friedman. Understand it. Spend time with it. Treat it with respect. Don't just do it as a passerby, because the very few, and there's a couple, right-wing students in this room, they've done that to all the left-wing ideas. No, it's fine. I'm calling them out. Because
No, they haven't. No, I can't even get people to read Fascism, and it's like 20 pages long.
They've done that with the left-wing ideas. They've had to. You cannot proceed in many universities without having to reckon and reconcile with that. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I just want to quickly follow on from that.
No, some poor soul was forced to read Things Fall Apart in freshman year of college. How will they ever recover?
I did my undergrad in the US, and so
what school?
Michigan State.
Oh, go Spartans! Yeah.
Go Green, go White. So I've, here and there, I've been labelled leftist, rightist. So I've heard it all.
I hate labels.
So a labor supporter, I take it.
Honestly, it's ridiculous. So you seem very sweet. So yeah.
Thank you. And I wanted to know. If you believe that,
I'm sorry. How did you listen to like an hour of Charlie Kirk talking about viewing you as like a walking fetus creator, and you're like giggling along with that? It's weird. It's weird. Stop.
I know your views on college education, specifically in the US, and that you believe that it does not deliver what it should. Do you think that, whether right or wrong, that because you don't have that degree, your influence within society might be...
Wait, he referenced Mere Christianity like as a great work? It's just really lame apologetics. It is a very thin book. I read it. It's bad. I also read it, and like it's bad, but it's also like maybe level 1 of like a conservative doing serious reading, like it's like one of the introduction books.
Restricted compared to, for example, Jordan Peterson.
Yes. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
keep going. You're exactly right. This is a barrier that I have to overcome. I did not go to university or college. I just went straight into doing stuff. And a criticism I get is, well, you didn't go to college, therefore you're not capable of dialoguing. That is inherently an argument from an authority. But yes,
she's trying to catch a media career. That could be.
That is a good argument if you want to be taken seriously, because it's of course a barrier. Because it actually only motivates me more to learn more and to dive deeper and to become better understanding of these ideas. But yes, there is at least in the States, of which you studied your undergrad, there is an emphasis on the credential. However, that also plays into my core argument as the indictment of the current state of the academy. If it is a credential, then it's a very expensive, time-intensive credential just to be able to have people take you more seriously. And that is kind of like the downfall.
That's what a credential is. Yeah, it's very expensive to specifically for the reason you just said, yes.
Of what do you do instead of like, where did you go? And I don't like that.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about something you've probably never talked about.
Never.
Yeah, abortion.
Oh, yeah. Now, if you make an argument I've never heard, I will give you great credit.
Yeah, I wanted to basically try to determine whether you, as you, I believe, believe that abortion in case of rape should be illegal because of the right to life being absolute, or that the right to life is supposed to be weighted against autonomy and freedom, but just the burden of carrying a child of a rapist is simply insufficient to justify abortion. And if I may, I would use a thought experiment for that.
Is it the violinist?
A modified version of it.
Yeah, see, I've heard it all, man. So you got it. It's Oxford. You got to go deeper, man. I'm going to be honest. Like, I got hundreds of hours on this topic. Give me something I haven't heard.
I mean, I think that's a wonderful place to start. I would love to hear Charlie's response.
It is deeper. So the question is whether you would, if anyone doesn't know the argument, I'm going to just spell it out in the modified version. So the Society of Music Lovers has determined that your wife is the only person that can save the life of a famous violinist. They have kidnapped her and their circulatory systems are currently attached. She can detach from the violinist. It will be safe for her, but it will lead to the violinist's death. The question is, would you be willing to force her to stay attached to the violinist for 9 months? And then the next question is, would your answer change if it was 10, 11, 12 months, her whole life, if perhaps she was supposed to be bedridden for the whole time for the sake of, well, seeing what happens if the burden significantly increases?
Well, the second part of the question is irrelevant because it's only for 9 months, so to keep it applicable to the topic at hand.
Well, and the reason Charlie immediately wants to diffuse that is so that he doesn't have to say that, like, no price is too great, because obviously there is a threshold for him. You know, like, he wants to diffuse that point because, well, yeah, maybe if it was a year, maybe if it was 2 years, maybe that'd be too monstrous, because he recognizes the fundamental monstrousness of forcing a woman to carry a pregnancy to term, right? Like, he recognizes in it a certain monstrosity, a certain violation of bodily autonomy, and a certain, repugnance to it.
And correct. Otherwise, it's a completely irrelevant moral question. Secondly, just to be clear,
he can just parrot William Lane Craig. I would still like to hear him, like, engage with the point. I don't think I've ever seen him do it.
You're not kidnapped when you get pregnant, so I don't quite understand the analogy, right? Number three, yes, I mean, if in this, I always found this analogy outrageous. If you're asking me or my wife would answer, if I have to suffer for 9 months so that another being will assuredly get life, I will do that. That's how she would answer.
May I follow up? Yeah, so the question is whether the right of life is absolute.
It is.
Or whether some level of inconvenience can be taken into account, or rather burden can be taken into account and weighed against it. In this case, I'm asking, what if it was, for example, for her whole life? Because, well,
it's not irrelevant. I haven't thought deeply about it, honestly, but it's not relevant because pregnancy is at a 9-month window. So it's not relevant to my abortion view.
Well, but
I mean, that's a dodge. That's like saying, well, the violinist argument isn't applicable because my wife isn't a violinist. You know, like, it's a dodge. It's actually a pretty, like, poorly done one too.
Well, the burden is also different of being attached to someone, a violinist. The burden is completely different to carrying a child of a rapist. So I do acknowledge that the burdens are different. Well, the question is whether there is a burden that could be weighed against the right to life, and if in this case you just believe that
the only burden would be life of the mother.
So you would force your wife.
Okay,
you would be willing.
Hold on a second. No, I would be willing to do whatever is necessary to not have a human being eliminated And I guess, is it a human being in the womb? Yes.
Yeah. Notice that Charlie said that and immediately had to be, well, is the human being in the womb? Is the as long as that human being that deserves equal treatment and consideration is in the womb, then I will do everything in my power to save it. But this, if we're talking about already born people in other countries, and say cutting a program that for a pittance of the national budget keeps hundreds of millions of people alive, well, they're already born people, so fuck them.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Then why don't you give the human being rights?
Well, that's what I'm trying to just...
No, ask the question. Why does that human not get rights, and you do?
Well, my question
No, answer the question. Why do you get rights?
I've dodged your hypothetical. Now answer my question. Like, Jesus Christ.
The baby doesn't.
I'm not saying it doesn't.
Yeah. Your right to life, eliminate it. That's the first and most fundamental right of the West. Why don't you get that right to the baby?
Well, I'm not saying I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm asking whether you would force your wife.
Well, hold on a second. Do you, very fundamentally, do you believe that every human being has a right to life?
Charlie really doesn't want to answer this question. That's fucking hilarious.
Regardless how small you are or what level of development that you are on.
I do believe that every person does have a right.
It's all good,
one
one-eyed heathen.
I do.
Okay, then we agree. Abortion should be eliminated, not allowed.
And you would force your mother, you force your wife to stay with a violinist.
Again,
you
are gruesomely describing a universal truth that we will protect life no matter how small or level of development in the environment or the degree of dependency.
Charlie. That is absolutely not true of your entire political existence. Dude. You've suckled at the teat of like big donors for like a decade and a half, man. Like your entire existence is to protect the existence of the fossil fuel industry so that they can continue to belch out poisons into the atmosphere that are eventually going to render our planet uninhabitable if we don't do anything about it. You're in favor of ending aid to Ukraine. You're in favor of the massive cuts to U.S. aid that are going to result in hundreds of millions of people dying of preventable illnesses and starvation. And I'm sorry, you can't make this argument that you give so much of a damn about human life that you're willing to pay any price when you're clearly not.
And again, I will throw it back to you, because it's very easy to use this analogy to make it seem like I'm unreasonable. But you're actually the unreasonable one here, saying that I will eliminate the human being just because, for what reason? There is no excuse for murder, period. We believe that in the West, correct? Now, you want to make the self-defense argument, we can go back there.
I love that Charlie is like, there's no excuse for murder, period. Meanwhile, earlier in this same appearance, he called for the castration of people in prison. He's trying to have it so many different ways. It's reminding me of a couple videos I've seen before.
I've heard every argument. They've heard that the baby's a parasite. I've heard the baby's an invader. I've heard the baby that is, currently taking the nutrients. None of them are morally applicable to the actual circumstance of gestation. Period. Every human being has a right to life. You can check your notes again if you'd like. But every human being has a right to life. Yes or no? It's what built the West.
Well, it's what I'm asking. It's the only thing I wanted to ask.
Got it. You got your answer. No, I understand. What you are doing is a rhetorical trap. I've answered it completely, which is this. I stand for the abolition of abortion in all circumstances against life of the mother because life matters. Every human being, I believe, is made in the image of the divine, is sacred, is unique. And if we get away from this principle as we have, we not only have moral degradation, we not only have the collapsing society around us, but it's bad for that being itself. That being itself is unique. That being has rights. And who are we to say, just because we're older, that we get to murder it? Thank you.
Oh, man. I really hope this guy continues to stand there and be like, answer my question, Charlie. I was thinking about it. Ah, damn.
I likewise have an abortion-related question. So the Constitution refers to citizens and persons, but it does not explicitly.
Jazz Dog, thank you for the $5 dono.
Here's a joke I thought of. Why don't pro-life advocates consider the rights of the mom? Because they never think outside the box. Bazinga.
God. Thank you for the $5 dono, Jazz Dog.
Define when life begins. In your view, who should define this question when we have a near split of liberals and conservatives in our country? Specifically, Alabama and Delaware have defined the start of life differently. Alabama treats the question as life beginning at conception. Since you can't kill a person, you're not permitted to get an abortion. Whereas Delaware defines the start of life at the time when the fetus is viable outside of the mother. Therefore, Delaware permits abortion up until viability at about 24 to 26 weeks. Since it's not in the Constitution, who should make a countrywide decision when liberals and conservatives have answered this question differently?
It's a good question. Right now, the answer, the Supreme Court has said, the localist jurisdiction possible. And then we'll work our way up from there. We aim to abolish abortion the same way we aim to abolish slavery in the 1860s.
Meaning that
with a civil war? Charlie. Charlie. Oh my God.
They are moral equivalents. In fact, one is arguably worse.
So the states should decide.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, right now the local jurisdiction. You can get down to the county.
Yeah, you all know slavery. We managed to completely get rid of it by appealing to states' rights, and then everyone got rid of it, and nothing at all happened. That's exactly the course of American history.
Level. We have county hospitals that have issues on this. We have jurisdictions. So the most local, the better. That will de-radicalize the position and give us space to make the moral argument, which I continue to be on a quest to do so.
And you would therefore respect Delaware's position on this matter?
Well, I mean, yes, the states have sovereignty to do that for the time being. But of course, we are going to push for a...
For the time being. Yes, of course states have rights. For now. Jesus Christ, man. These people are just full on, like... robes off. It's crazy. This is embarrassing that we as a country have allowed these people to feel so emboldened.
National vote when we win the people's minds. We are my position on abortion is unpopular in my country. I don't want to scare you guys too much. I am in the vast minority of my own political party on this issue. Proudly. Because I'm morally correct. I'm on the right side of history. When all the chips are down and when all the biology is settled, it will be very simple and very clear that we have made
biology famous for being settled and nothing new at all being discovered all the time, every day.
Every excuse in the book to try to eliminate life smaller than us for simply inconveniences. So yes, right now we respect Delaware, we respect Michigan.
Right now, yeah, we respect them, but we won't always respect them.
Respect all of that, but we have all intents to march every way through the institutions, from the cultural places of power and eventually political, to abolish abortion in America.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Charlie. So I wanted to return to a comment you made earlier about the generation of lost boys. You likened them to the Peter Pan movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're talking about Red Pill Media as being a large influence, and I wanted to define that. It's a reference to the Matrix in which a lot of these media heads
I'm familiar with that.
talk about unplugging yourself. And it's about waking up to the realization that there is an active attack on masculinity, that men's rights need to be, that men are being oppressed in a way, and that men's rights need to be advocated for. And
hate to ask, but what's the point of watching this? Charlie's side always wins because they have infinity money and yet believe in nothing. This is jerking off to him. The only outcome is more fascists. Well, I think that there is value in mocking fascists. I think that it's valuable to actually look at what they're saying and say, nah, you're a sack of shit. I think that there's value in that. I think more people need to tell Nazis to fuck off, and I think that there's value in content telling Nazis to fuck off. And, you know, I think Charlie Kirk needs to fuck off, you know?
You know, many people have attributed the Red Pill media to rise in like this almost generation of lost boys.
Also, if any of you become fascists, I'm personally coming to kick your ass. So you better, if this is radicalizing you, you need to get your ass kicked. Genuinely.
I kind of wanted to get your opinion on kind of like, do you see this generation of lost boys as a failure of, like, say, masculinity, or are there potential other factors, economic, social factors, such as, you know, the death of the American dream, increase in costs of living in America, increased cost of education? Are there like any other reasons as to why this generation of lost boys might exist, or do you basically?
Oh yeah, absolutely, Ace. You know, like it's a shame that these students aren't more familiar with Charlie Kirk's game to push back on it more effectively. But like, part of the reason I do these videos is so that we can take a look at his arguments and point out why they're bullshit, why they don't work. Because, frankly, more people need to hear rebuttals to what Charlie Kirk believes. You know? And fundamentally, like with abortion, for me, it's a very simple argument. I believe that a woman's bodily autonomy is sacrosanct. It is, you know, to a degree, absolute. Like if a woman doesn't want to be pregnant, they shouldn't be pregnant. Full stop. Because there's nothing more monstrous to me than forcing a woman to be pregnant against her will. You know, I think that is maybe one of the worst things that one human being can do to another human being. It's a violation across time and space, and it is immeasurable, you know? And so, for me, that is like the core. And I think pushing back on Charlie's ideas with that is good. I think when Charlie Kirk is making his red pill explanations, I think it's good to push back on like the narrative that he's trying to spin. You know, it's good to do that, guys.
No, I acknowledge all of that, of course. I mean, one of them, it's a very good faith question.
I'm radicalized into phone banking for Zohran Mamdani. Good. More of you need to phone bank for Zohran Mamdani.
Thank you. In America, we made a stupid decision in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s.
Oh, God. Everyone at your work thinks he's smart as Musk, and they mean it as a compliment. Oh, Buffalo guy. Gee, I'm really sorry to hear that. That is, I'm sure I speak for all of chat when I say our condolences go out to you.
90s to shut down our factories in the middle part of the country and basically disenfranchise and deindustrialize tens of millions of working class men and tell them to go move to the cities and learn to code. I said this in the previous Q&A, but I can again.
Decipher, thank you for subscribing.
Men, a family used to be able to be supported on a single income of 35 weeks of labor a year. Now it takes upwards of 60 weeks of labor a year. However, given all the economic and social and all those factors, the largest of all of them is the cultural and the educational that has.
Wait, hey Charlie, the cultural and educational aspects, what drives those changes, Charlie? Is it the material conditions?
Keeping Jack alive.
Matthew H, thank you for the $20 Australian. Thank you for helping to keep me alive. That's a whole meal at Chipotle. Thank you. Yeah, the material conditions are what dictate cultural and educational ideas and programs and implementations. And like if Charlie is trying to make the argument that like culture and education are alienated from the material conditions of a location, that's just not how society works, you know? I see it's Weasley bitch here on the Riverboat Jack program. Indeed.
has infantilized men and hyper-feminized them in the messaging, in the
Hey,
outreach,
Nolan Muina.
and in the treatment. And so I can give you specific examples, you know.
Yeah, in what way has the education system infantilized men?
I mean, every possible way, from the hypermedication of young men, from in the core curriculum in America, we learn about toxic masculinity from ages 8 in public schools in California and in New York. We never talk about toxic femininity. Do you agree that there's toxic femininity as well?
I mean, I think it's an unfair double standard.
Why?
Well,
how can
Wait a minute. How have education systems infantilized him? It's a great question. How have they been infantilizing young men? I'm trying to see here.
Thank you for what you do, sister.
Oh, Liliana Young, thank you for the $5 dono. I was trying to find like an image from that Turning Point USA event where they had a Turning Point USA member dress up in a diaper, like as part of like a PR stunt. So like I don't know. I feel like the one infantilizing students here is Charlie, but you know that's just me. I can't find the image, but I found this article from the Independent. Oh, come on. There we go. How one student in a diaper caused an eruption in the conservative youth organization from 2018. Holy shit. Do I have video? No, I don't. I just have this article. Also, I'm not gonna show video of a student in fucking diapers. Because I'm not a weirdo.
Femininity not be toxic if masculinity can?
I'm not saying they can't be.
Man, I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm heaving, I'm vomiting. I need someone to be able to explain toxic masculinity to Charlie. Well, why aren't we learning about toxic femininity?
Do we teach kids about toxic femininity in our schools? No, tell me yes or no.
I mean, I think that they come from two very different places. I think toxic masculinity comes from a level of misogyny, where I think toxic femininity often comes from a reaction to a misogynistic system which fundamentally oppresses and systematically oppresses women. And I'm not saying that toxic femininity is a good thing, but I'm saying it's
Hey, good. This guy I think gets it.
a much more understood and valid reaction to a system of oppression versus toxic masculinity, which oppresses.
Okay. So
damn, good job.
Even if I grant you that, are they teaching toxic? Is that term ever been used in a school that you know of?
What term?
I've never heard of toxic masculinity being taught in a classroom. I want Charlie to provide a citation. I want Charlie to provide a citation that there has been a child that goes into the classroom and the teacher like stands up, looks at all of the kids in the class sitting in their neat little rows and says something along the lines of, "All of you boys are toxic. You have toxic masculinity, and that means you're evil for being boys." Like I want the citation. I want Charlie to like show me the video. Where's that happening? Because I don't believe that happens. Any more than I believe that like there's the atheist student or there's the Christian student and the atheist professor, and you know the Christian student converts the professor and everyone claps. Like I don't believe those stories either. All right, I need like actual evidence. All right.
Toxic femininity?
No, it's not.
Oh, that's weird. So only one sex gets criticized and called toxic. Maybe that creates a backlash.
Well, because one.
Well, also not to split hairs too much here, but masculinity is not the same as male. You know, again, Charlie is blurring these lines intentionally.
One is creating a system of
Oh,
oppression.
no, that's
the other
your
is a reaction to
interpretation.
it.
No, you can make every excuse under the book that you'd like, but only one chromosome set gets criticized, called that they're terrible and awful, and that women basically...
Yeah, women never get called terrible or awful. You know, famously, the dynamic associated with women is the Madonna complex. And as we know, that means women are only Madonnas. They are only seen as pure and perfect and never seen as anything else at all.
Need to be like go into the corporate world with no reservation, and young men see this pattern in the West and in our country from the authors, from the curriculum, from the music, from the movies, and we see, and of course, again, in the educational system proper, we have seen the infantilization of the young male. And so again, we know the data, you did agree to it, that young men are checking out completely, but we're actually living under a hyper-feminist West that is toxic. What does that mean? Speech
please tell me what hyper-feminism is. It sounds cool. Is it just feminism in neon lights? Because that's neat too. I wouldn't say no to that.
Feelings first, emotion over reason, community over individualism. We're seeing this, and by the way, is it working? Is the West stronger as it's become more feminine in the last 30 years? No. In fact,
what does it mean for the West to have become more feminine in the last 30 years? Like, again, this is just like yapping. It doesn't mean anything. This is, again, like the political equivalent of numerology. It's just weird pattern recognition gone awry to serve a conservative agenda. That's it.
Morale is weaker, we're more suicidal, our fertility rates are down, we have lost the balance, we've lost the yin and the yang between the male and the female. We lost what worked, and we have hyper-platformed. Your own prime minister, Boris Johnson, when he was—
Men wash their asses now? If only. If only. Is hyper-feminism what comes after high fem? Indeed, Liliana Young, I believe so. I think to Kirk, feminine means weak. I mean, could be. I definitely think he doesn't like women that much. God. That's an emote.
Talking at a summit, said we need to actually make things more feminine. Could you imagine?
Dude's literally doing the adult version of like getting high as like a political analyst and like saying to your empty dorm room, "Hey man, what if like I don't know, countries could have cooties? What if that was real? Whoa." And like he just has made it his whole personality, you know?
Imagine if he said we need to make things more masculine. How does that sound to a dock worker in Brighton or someone in Essex? We need to make things more feminine? No. Instead, we need
to make things more feminine? No. Have you all seen the movie 28 Days Later? That was a movie about cooties. Can't let it get here. Everyone will be zombies. Feminine zombies. But that's okay, because as I discussed earlier, dead bodies can still be pregnant.
We need to restore the balance that God created man and women, and right now, and by the way, you want an example? Adolescence. How does that movie Adolescence not broadly generalize a theme that, first of all, doesn't—
It's not a movie, it's a mini-series. Let's be clear about that.
Exist. Secondly, is like a slow motion like humiliation ritual for the young boys of Britain. Could you imagine if there was a similar movie criticizing—
What are you talking about? It's a movie about like a murder, man. We make like 1,200 of those a day. This is like being upset about the mental damage the movie Taken did to like 45-year-old men. Like what do you mean? Sorry, 57-year-old men. Come on, Charlie. How will the 57-year-old men ever recover from the damage Taken has done to their image?
Young women that are like how they are the ones that are driving men away, about how catty they are, about how they don't want to be. No, it's fine. I'll just complete the point. I could give you data point after data point, and I would ask you the question, has the West grown stronger the more effeminate has become?
Okay.
The more feminine it has become.
You've said a lot.
Yes, that's how a Q&A works. You ask the question and I answer, so I am the speaker.
What a fucking asshole. Like he's ready to fight.
You know that's how it works, yeah.
That's my take, thank you. Okay, so on your point about adolescence, I don't think adolescence is a generalization. We are not saying that every young boy in the UK is like this. We're not saying every young boy goes through this process. It's an example of what can happen when people fall into this kind of media. I think it's like, and it's more of a story or a warning to what can happen to people that, you know, fall into these bubbles, who don't find the help that they necessarily need, that can turn violent. And like, this is a perfect example of toxic masculinity, in which the boy feels like he's not affirmed in his masculinity and takes that out on women. Like that, we've also then seen like within men, like the largest contributor to like men's deaths right now is male suicide. Like, but I would argue that is not a factor of feminization, but instead a factor of masculinity. The idea that men can't be in touch with their feelings. You talked about a feeling first approach being effeminate. So men are simply not allowed to engage with their feelings at all. Like men not allowed to talk about their feelings. These are large contributors to a massive problem within men's spaces that lead to what is
this dude's doing great. Good job, my guy.
Highest contributor to men's death, suicide. And I think this idea that, you know, men simply go back to work and if they're economically assured, then suddenly everything is fine. And, you know,
also, remember how earlier I was praying, I was hoping, I was sobbing, I was throwing up for someone who understands toxic masculinity? I think this guy is the answer to my prayer, okay? Because this guy literally is describing the toxic elements of masculinity that are coming back around to bite men in the ass, you know? It's literally what he's doing. It's so good.
Men's mental health was never an issue before like the 90s when, or whatever it was, when we used to start affirming men's mental health, I think is an unfair, it's an unfair point to make. And I think it doesn't speak to a lot of issues that a lot of young men face. And I think it's a dishonest way to go about talking about this conversation.
Okay, so which part would you like me to respond to?
Let's go to the point about male suicide and masculinity not being allowed to affirm.
So to your
emotions.
point, if it was true that men have always been miserable, why have the suicide rates gone up?
Well, because we've started recording suicides better. It's not to say that suicides didn't occur on this level. It's just we simply have better ways of recording.
That's rubbish, and you know it. Body bags are data that transcends any sort of manipulation.
What?
When a self-inflicted gun wound or being hung, it was not like a mass reporting issue 60 years ago in this country or in the West. It is a material fact because we know it's happening in the Anglosphere. It's happening in Australia, it's happening in America, it's happening all across Europe, that suicide rates of men are going up. Depression is going up.
I wonder if that has any relation to the working and material conditions in those countries, Charlie. Wonder if that has anything to do with the overarching system of capital everyone is laboring under in order to maximize profits. I wonder if that is any relation whatsoever. I would think it does.
Going up. Yes. They are correlated together. It's not a reporting issue. There's something undergirding it. And in fact, just one other thing, your own prime minister endorsed adolescence. He sent out a tweet saying, I was shocked to the core when I watched this film and everyone should watch it. So that is an endorsement from the top leader, other than, you know, the king of this country, of endorse. I don't even know, may the king endorse that.
I mean, an endorsement is not a generalization.
Well, hold on. No. He said, I'm troubled to the core of what this could become. And you have to, again, that is one example of thousands that I could give, one that is the most applicable to here to this country. And I guess I would just ask this question in closing. Do you think men would be happier if they are married and providing for a family?
I don't think marriage or the institution of marriage is the only way a man can be happy.
That's not what I said. I said.
But yeah, a man can be perfectly happy and content without either of those things.
I said generally happier. Do you think men will be generally happier if they're married, providing, and have children?
I don't think that's a necessary factor to contribute.
Charlie,
what
come
then
to
what
Candy
is your
Mountain.
solution?
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. Charlie.
To bring about male happiness in the West. Mine is men get married, have children, and provide. What is yours?
That's a big question. I think an affirmation of their emotions, their emotional states.
We've tried that.
I think an openness to allowing men to express themselves in whichever way they want, even if that is in a more effeminate way or a Western, typically effeminate way. I don't think it's about ostracization. I don't think it's about promoting one simple institution of living and disregarding all of those else. Men are free to live single, men are free to be in gay relationships. I don't think that the institution of marriage privileges one to a life of happiness over any other way of living.
So of course you have the agency to do that. With all due respect, have you been to London the last 10 years? Men can do whatever they want.
I live in London.
Are they happier? Men can dress how they want. Men can act how they want. They can go to any club. Has it worked?
Yeah, but also we've had austerity. There are other factors outside of simply just.
Do you see what you're doing? Respectfully, you're scrambling for an excuse to get away from the truth that's right in front of you.
I mean,
maybe men should get married and have children.
Okay, but I think
because it's worked for 2,000 years.
I just think it's a very dishonest way to go about this argument. That there's only one issue.
Interesting. Can I challenge you on that, though?
Sure.
Why is it that the men of much poorer African and Asian countries don't have suicide issues, yet they have no money?
How do we know that?
Oh, we know, again, by empirical third-party reported data from the UN, from the US State Department, there is not a suicide crisis in sub-Saharan Africa. There's not a suicide crisis in Southeast Asia with young men. So explain to me that phenomenon. They're materially wealthy, they're not materially wealthy, and yet they're harming themselves. So why would you then say it's austerity?
Wait, sorry.
Because harsher economic conditions lead to crimes of, not crimes, but like acts of despair. You've got more reporting. You've got more. Like I'm just baffled here. He's really bad at this, and it's hard sometimes to formulate a response to a bad argument. Like maybe he's just throwing out shit to try and confuse this kid, you know, or this man.
Say that again.
Okay, you're looking for another explanation for male unhappiness.
Yes.
I'm pointing to you to a part of the world that actually does value marriage and does have children, but they have no money.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, how could you say it is a material problem why the men of London, who can dress how they want, go to whatever bar they want, are not happy?
Yeah, I really do want to ask though, how are you measuring the happiness in these countries? Exactly. Like, is it just like you're saying, oh, people don't kill themselves as much in a poor country, and it's just kind of like, well, I don't know that we know that that's true, actually.
Because it's more than one reason. Like there are multiple factors. It's not just like, it's not even just economic. There's economic, there's social, there's like religious pressures. There's so many, like you cannot boil down a societal issue to like one.
And I acknowledge
issue.
that, right? I even at the beginning, remember, I'm saying the biggest, the one that has an exponent on it, is that we have a biological urge that God gave us when he designed us, which is to be fruitful and multiply, for men to provide for the family. And when we suppress that, and we say that you can go live whatever lifestyle you would like, as already happens in the West. We have Exhibit A. We have a serious suicide, mental health, anxiety, depression issue. So I would just ask you to think over the next couple of days, months, or years, why is it that men in countries that barely have toilets and do not have 2 pounds to rub together, but they do have kids and they do have a wife, are much happier than someone with a big flat in downtown London? Something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's because, like this guy said, there's a lot of different factors that make someone happy or unhappy, you know, and it is relative, right? Like you can be the richest person on earth and absolutely miserable while you're playing, I don't know, Diablo 4 or something. Like, you know, to a certain degree, wealth correlates with happiness, but like, you can also be a miserable rich person.
I mean, I think happiness is a difficult idea to conflate in that sense. I mean,
But
there
I'm
are
talking about
other
suicide.
duties.
They're less likely to kill themselves. Forget all these happiness indexes. If you kill yourself, you're not happy, right? So these poor countries do not have male suicide problems. Why?
I do not know.
Think about it. Thank you very much.
You've spoken a little bit about your belief in the sanctity of life.
I think that that guy did about as well as he could have done there. You know, like I think he got in some good hits and ultimately got dragged into. You know, why would a country with poor data collection and reporting on suicide rates not have as many suicide rates? Who could say? Who could say? You know.
And the inviolable dignity of the human person. I take it that you accept evolution.
It depends what you mean by that.
Do you think we've evolved from primates?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I do believe in the biblical account of creation. I also acknowledge that there is an abundance of scientific research that shows adaptation. Species change is heavily.
A lot of these people are dealing with their problems by abusing their family rather than themselves.
Very true, Nomi Sunrider. Thank you for the $5 super chat. But also, you know, Charlie, if there's a huge effect when it comes to adaptation, I'm wondering if over the course of millions of years, if you had enough of those adaptations and they piled up over time, would you say that a creature evolved? You know, maybe some kind of evolution took place?
Heavily inferred in the data. I don't know enough about it, but I believe the scriptures to be true. And you can be a theist and also believe in God.
It's very important to note, most research done supports social media being the biggest factor. The mental health crisis didn't start until the late 2000s. There are also conservative countries unhappy.
I mean, I do think social media exacerbates a lot of the underlying issues, but like America has always had, and every country on earth has always had a mental health crisis. Like it's just that the terminology has changed, right? Like one of the things we talk about when it comes to, for example, like alcoholism. Like people were just like known to like the drink, you know? It was just like kind of, that's just your uncle's secret that he's taking to the grave. Don't worry about it. Don't tell anyone about it. You know, people just were unwilling to talk about mental health as a concept. And honestly, it wasn't until like the 1800s that people started studying psychology in the first place. And it wasn't until, you know, the 1970s that like people really started getting into like the concept of therapy, and that really only became mainstream in like, you know, the 2000s. And so like that science has been evolving and progressing, and as we've understood brains and thought processes more, like it's interesting. And I would add that like, yeah, the problem of mental health is exacerbated by social media. We're not built to, you know, evaluate 11 billion things happening on the internet and around the world at any given time. Like we have soft monkey brain, you know? We have soft monkey brain, and soft monkey brain is built to like count up to like, I don't know, 100 bananas. But like, if you try and imagine in your head right now, what does 1,000 bananas look like? What does 1,000,000 bananas look like? What does 1,000,000,000 bananas look like? You can't conceptualize that many things. You know? You can't visualize it. Your brain's just not built for it. And so I think that there is an aspect of it where our brains are built for a certain amount of news, and we're overwhelming our little monkey brains with, you know, news that is not relevant to our situation, you know? And it still activates our monkey brains all the same, you know? You might not be in LA, but if you read some news stories about LA, it's going to stress you the fuck out, you know? Thank you for the $10 super chat, Brutus Magnuson. Do appreciate that. Ba.
God ushered evolution.
Yeah, I completely
And
agree.
so, of which I allow people much smarter than me to make determinations on that. It's completely irrelevant to my core theology, though.
Okay. Are you happy for me to proceed with the question,
Please,
though, on that
yeah.
basis?
Sorry,
So
yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah.
No, that's fine. So you're kind of vaguely, not vaguely, but you seem generally happy with the idea that maybe evolution is true. I hope that that's the case. I mean,
Well, I actually, I don't believe that. I think that I'm not saying you said happy that evolution is true.
We're not necessarily happy, but
Well, that was the word you
surely,
used, though, right?
Okay, fine. Willing to accept that based on the evidence, evolution is a fact.
No, I'm not saying
You
it's a
don't-
fact.
fine.
I'm actually, again, I say I'm open to have my mind moved, and I look at the data, but I believe, given the abundance of equal data that atheists must reckon with, that there is a fine-tuning problem to our existence that I believe warrants that there is a God, intelligent life.
No. That problem is completely and utterly solved when you look and realize, like, yes, any creature that would actually manage to survive to reach our level of consciousness would look around and, having evolved to, be able to thrive in their given circumstance, view themselves as, well, wow, we couldn't have existed in any other way. Like, of course, the process literally moves you in that direction. Like, that's the fine-tuning principle is not a compelling argument to me, because it's basically just the idea that, well, the fact that we live in a universe that allows us to exist at all is proof that God exists. And it's just like, I mean, no, it's not. That is very much explained by just evolution. And Charlie framing like, oh, well, the fine-tuning is, the atheists need to answer for that. Well, it's answered by the evolution, the system of evolution. Like, that's... Like, yeah, it seems like these creatures are perfectly adapted to the situation in which they live because that is what living creatures do.
Life came from a God, and I believe the scriptures to be true. That in the creation account, there is an allowance to say that God created the heavens and the earth and allowed us to either evolve through species. I happen to believe, through a faith claim, that human beings are designed. What that means is designed over a long period of time or designed immediately. That's for people smarter than me to determine.
Fine. I suppose what I'm getting at is, if you believe in the sanctity of life and that there is something fundamentally different between the life of, say, for instance, a human being and the life of an animal, does that not make that claim slightly arbitrary? What is personhood based in, if not?
Oh, yeah. So
do you see what I'm getting at?
Sort of. The scriptures say, though, that God created humans, male and female distinct. They're the only ones in Genesis 1:26, 1:27 to made in the image of God.
Right,
and
exactly.
so he called animals good, but they are not image bearers.
Okay, but
that word create.
Yeah, but hey, Charlie, what does that mean? What does that mean? They're not the. You are not the image bearer. Like, what kind of JR? Like, what kind of like Oblivion RPG nonsense is this? Halt, citizen! Your face has become too small.
Is barach in Hebrew, and it's not clear whether or not that is created in an instant over a long period of time. And we as believers, I find no contradiction into saying that God could have created an instant, of which I would be pleased, I'll ask God when I get to heaven how this all unfolded, or was it a process of adaptation and species change? Very smart Christians are on both sides of this issue, and so there's what we call in Christianity closed-hand theological issues and open-hand theological issues. Closed-hand issues would be like the resurrection of Christ, the Trinity, and then there's open-handed, which would be like eschatology or the Eucharist or the creation account. This one allows, given the verbiage, it could be either way.
Fine. I think just, I don't want to take up too much time then, but just kind of on that, you were talking a little bit about Christian values, and I'm intrigued by that. I get the sense that you're very much motivated by your faith. To what extent do you think Donald Trump embodies gospel values?
Yeah, so He reminds me very much of Samson in the Bible. Both had, you can laugh. How many of you guys actually know about Samson? Great hair. He was a man willing to fight for a cause greater than he, despite some of his own moral troublings and moral missteps. All throughout the Bible, from King David to others, there are plenty of Abraham. Moses murdered somebody. How many people knew that? Moses murdered somebody. How dare you? You can say a lot. Donald Trump has never murdered anybody. But Moses is like the most revered man in Judaism. Yeah, he was a murderer in
Yeah, he hasn't murdered anyone. He's just ordered assassinations. Ha 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 ha.
Egypt. He took someone aside and just slammed him in the head and actually had to flee all the way to Midian because of it. We're all flawed. We all have original sin. How do I reconcile what he's doing with gospel values?
Well, for instance, I mean, the gospel values to me would be, humility, compassion, forgiveness. Does he live according to those values, do you think?
I actually, at times, I will say, he's far more magnanimous than people will give him credit. None of us are able to fill all those values. I will say some values that I think he does fulfill. He is a truth teller. And the gospel says very clearly that telling of the truth is one of the most fundamental things, the spoken word. So I'm not going to spend time here defining every moral decision that Donald Trump has made or not made. I am equally a sinner as Donald Trump. We all are. We all fall short.
Like, can we all just, like, marvel at the audacity of this bitch to say that Donald Trump, the man famous for lying, like, he has most lies per minute, you know, he has the world record for it. The audacity of this bitch to tell this audience that Donald Trump is a truth teller. Jesus Christ.
Short of the glory of God. But I will say that his willingness to rise to the occasion of something greater than he, to endure being shot and almost shot again and almost 700 years in federal prison, is one of the most courageous actions I've ever seen from a public elected official in the history of the West.
Do you think Jesus would have voted for Trump?
Do I think Jesus, well, first of all, Jesus intentionally didn't vote and did not care about the Roman guard. You remember he said...
Jesus intentionally didn't vote? Vote in what? What? Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. Yeah, Jesus was one of the non-voters under Imperial Rome. Oh, holy shit. The Roman Empire had an emperor. Wait a minute, you mean you didn't vote on your emperor? Oh, jeez. The non-voters always ruin Rome.
Said, pay unto Caesar what is Caesar, render unto God's what is God. Do I think Jesus would love some of the stuff that Trump is doing?
It's a silly question, but I'm just,
No, I mean, fine. It's like, what did Jesus teach us? Jesus says, don't touch children. Okay, so he would love the fact that Donald Trump repealed Roe versus Wade. He would love the fact that child sex trafficking is being focused on in this current government.
You know, I'm just throwing out there that the world's richest man called the president of the United States, whose country he was running for the last 6 months, said that he was in the Epstein files for diddling children and called him a pedophile. But yes, this administration is definitely very, very focused on that issue, Charlie. Yep, 100%. Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ said a lot of things such as, sin no more, and things such as love your neighbor are things that we should embody in every single one of our public policy decisions. So Jesus is divine, and he would not fill out a ballot.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Why do you think that? His parents literally went to Bethlehem so that they could be counted on the census. Like, he's famous for saying, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. I don't get the impression that Jesus would have, like, chilled at home and not voted, actually.
Thank you.
For answering my questions.
I wanted to take a back on South Africa. You did talk about South Africa, and obviously the Expropriation Act of 2024 is kind of a really big issue. I think to start off from the outset, I should mention that I also don't agree about the more terrible slogans, cue the boards. Obviously, I think is terrible. But I think it's good to have context where the Expropriation Act is coming from. And I think drilling down a little bit, I want to pick your thoughts based on the fact that white South Africans only account for about 10% of the population, and they own about 72% of private land in South Africa. And I think it's always really good also to pretty much draw back a little bit from the historic background behind it.
Oh, this
It goes
guy's
back
South
to about
African, Brutus
1913,
Magnuson.
the Native Acts land, which severely, disproportionately discriminate against Black South Africans from owning land in South Africa. And that's what's caused much of the disparity we see economically. So I wanted to find out from you, what are your thoughts? And obviously, Trump administration has really been big on what's going on in South Africa at the minute and the act itself that they enacted. So do you think it's a moral obligation that obviously you're talking about that the land that was expropriated back in the days historically, and that was a colonial endeavor altogether, does that land need to be returned to Black South Africans?
No, but they've already, so I know dangerously little about this. And so, again, what I said on
Cool. Then maybe you should shut your fucking mouth about it.
stage is what I know, so I'm going to have to understand. I'm an American. I'm just trying to educate myself on UK politics, and so you will probably know more about this than I will. But is it not true, and you can correct me, in the last 20 years, they've tried some form of reparations with Black South Africans?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that correct? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yes, there's been, but it's not worked. So the BBE,
that's right.
for instance,
So time out. So taking stuff from one group and giving it to Blacks doesn't work?
Well,
Man, Charlie's really trying hard to channel. Oh God, what's his name? That horrible racist from like the '60s. You guys know who I'm talking about. He was on William F. Buckley. There we go.
It does work, but I'll give you context as well.
Well, you just said it doesn't work.
I'll give you
contradicted
context.
yourself, so educate me. I don't know enough, but you just contradicted yourself. You went from it doesn't work to it does work, so please.
I'll give you context as well. So what they did is they did have a program called the Black Empowerment Economic Program. And pretty much what they did is for every corporation, they would have to incorporate...
I don't like the way he said that. Yeah, Jess Talks Books. I don't like the way he said it either, because when I say he's invoking William F. Buckley here, he's trying to pull like a... I'm being a racist, but I'm polite about it, as if like that somehow makes it better. And sometimes in circumstances like this, it will just slide by. Like, people will just not respond to it, and it just gets slipped into the entire argument. It's gross. Wasn't extreme racism the norm in the 60s? Yeah, but this guy was like a political commentator on television in the 60s. You know, that's why I'm making the comparison. Also, like, I love that Charlie's like, see, when you move material ownership around, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't fix the problem. Yeah, famously, the United States doesn't fund itself or any of its endeavors or its military by, you know, taking money and moving it around to the U.S. military from, you know, citizens in the form of taxation. You know, like, oh man, moving money around just never works. Like, I don't know, you pay for things like every day. You go to the grocery store. Hey, you're moving money around. I'm sorry, it does in fact work.
Black people within it, but that's not worked really well. And what we've seen over time is that a lot of Black people that have been part of those organizations haven't been a minority. So pretty much, as you mentioned, you talked about DEI. So it's just pretty much checking a box, right? You have a Black person within the senior management group, but it's only probably 2 people and the like, and that's pretty much it. But the majority of Black South Africans that do not own any land, because obviously the historic context that I gave, cannot pretty much be able to earn a good living, because, I mean, with land also comes economic opportunity, and that's been the biggest disparity in South Africa.
And excuse my ignorance on this, from what I understand, though, is that the land owned by Black South Africans is actually not as productive as those owned by the Boers. Is that correct?
I wonder why that might be. I wonder why the land owned by the colonizing force of the region and prioritized in ownership might be overall better quality land than the land being given as reparations to Black South Africans. I wonder. Wait a minute. Did the colonizers figure out which pieces of land were the best and most productive, and then took it for themselves? Wait, that's exactly what happened. That's what happens under colonialism. Charlie Kirk is such a ding dong.
Correct?
Well, at the minute, 72% of private land, agricultural land, is owned by white South Africa.
No, I
so
understand
only
that,
a minority.
Fair enough, but the 28%, when compared to Boer-run farms, are actually not as productive because running a farm in South Africa is very difficult.
Yes.
Am I correct?
I love that Charlie Kirk is trying to allege that Boers have some kind of farming superpower. It must be their class skill in the civilization game he's playing in his head.
By saying that?
Well, context again.
Well, I just want to make sure I'm clear that actually running a farm for over 100 years is actually really impressive.
100%.
Yeah, so we agree on that.
Yes, we agree on that.
So thank you, because I don't know enough about this, but I do think that that's important to note that even the Black South Africans that own land, it actually...
Yes, the implication is that the implication is in fact that like Black people in South Africa are incapable of running farms as efficiently as white South Africans. Yeah, that is the implication.
Is not as fruitful or has the same yields as those that have been doing it for over 100 years in a time when there's actually food instability in the region and in South Africa.
But obviously, what I'll say is, over time, if, say, you did have an act that expropriates land from Black South Africans, you need to build capacity over time. And I think the government is doing that for the minority Black people that own agricultural farmland in South Africa, and they've been doing that. But also, we can't deny the fact that if you control supply chains for over a century, right, then it means that you pretty much control the economy, right? So how best do you think, obviously the land was taken from Black people, and South Africans, white South Africa has been pretty much, improving the economic outcomes over time. What do you think is the best way to break even in that sense?
Fair question.
And I just want to make one point to you. If obviously you look at key philosophers as well, like Robert Nozick, for instance, he talks about equality in terms of acquisition, as well as the process through which you acquire that land, and obviously correcting the injustice that comes out of it. So what would be your thoughts on that?
I'm not familiar with the philosopher you mentioned. Who was the name again?
Robert Nozick.
Okay.
He's a very prominent philosopher.
I'll look into it. Sure, thank you for that. I don't know enough about South Africa to suggest anything. Here's what I could tell you, that race-based politics is really bad. I know this.
I believe from this guy's accent and the direction of his questioning that he is a Black South African. That's my understanding here, and so the audacity of Charlie Kirk to say to a Black South African man that Charlie Kirk knows that race-based politics is really bad in order to prop up the historic abuses of South Africa as a country towards Black South Africans. Like, there was an apartheid state in South Africa for like 100 years. Like, I'm not super familiar with South African history, so I'm sorry about that. But like, for a very long time, people had different rights based on the color of their skin in South Africa, and it was horrible. It was disgusting, and it was bad for Black South Africans in particular. And Charlie to deploy this argument in order to buoy the claims of white South Africans to hold on to stolen property, it's weird. It's weird to
Race-based
me.
politics is bad, but Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state.
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs.
Because I'm living it in my country. And I think that South Africa should get away from race obsession and should get towards something that is rooted in merit and empowerment.
They only got rid of apartheid like 30 years ago, man. Like, what do you... Oh my god.
South Africa's what?
Just get over it. Just get over the centuries of oppression, man.
75% black, is that correct? 80%? Maybe
Yeah,
more?
that's right.
Right. And so explain to me, like post-apartheid, outside of the land ownership, maybe there's a business element. Why is it that once apartheid was removed, why black South Africans were not able to see their material economic net worth go up in the last 20 or 30 years? What do you think there's any, and
I wonder if there are not other forms of oppression outside of the government that one might be able to manipulate, say, with some kind of currency or money of some kind. I wonder if that might be a factor here.
maybe I don't know enough. Are there any cultural inhibitions of a defeatist attitude that has basically, let's say, infected the minds of poor South?
Oh my God. No, Charlie, it's because all of the rich assholes in South Africa continue to be rich assholes in South Africa. Like, that's... They continued to be wealthy and own the shit. So, in the span of, like, 30 years, yeah, there hasn't been a whole uplifting of society. Due to the fact that the racists are still there and are still wealthy and politically powerful.
South Africans last 20 years that feel as if they can't accumulate wealth. Do you think that plays a factor?
Yeah, I think what's really infected Black South Africans is pretty much going back what we're talking about. Obviously, from the colonial background that I just gave you, and we see a lot of like neo-colonialism, we control the supply chains, and you own 72% of agricultural farmland. How do you expect the majority black people to improve their lives and their outcomes when you pretty much control everything?
And so this is a sloppy but best example I can give. Is that fair? I'll do it. So just grant me some mercy here. What percentage of American land is owned by Asians?
Not sure.
Yeah, less than 3%. They are the richest racial group in America. So maybe land ownership isn't the only thing that matters to get wealthy.
Hey, Charlie, historically, how did people get wealthy in America? Yeah, I'll ask chat. Hey, chat, historically, what's the #1 thing that made people wealthy in America? What has been the consistent vehicle of building generational wealth? Anyone? Anyone? Inheritance, yes. Of what? Inheritance of what? Owning land! Shoot bang! Nailed it! Owning land, owning property, and then passing that along to your children is the single greatest engine of economic growth and mobility that people in America have. Now, where did all of that land come from? Where did all of that land and property come from? That's right, Von 400. It was stolen by a colonial superpower. And so the issue here is that, yes, owning land is not the only thing that matters when it comes to getting wealthy, but it is how most people improve their economic standing in the world. It is one of the single biggest investments most people make in their entire lives. And then that, in turn, gains more value over time. And then you can pass that along to your children and your children's children's children and so on and so forth, right? It is a huge investment. And you can take out loans against it in order to start businesses. But the land ownership under capitalism is one of the big engines of economic power. And if you're looking at a country and you're saying, well, there's no land for, Black South Africans to own and build up and pass on, that is a huge economic hurdle. The denial of that ownership is a denial of bettering your economic station, or one of the most powerful tools to better your economic station, right? And so when we're looking at that, Charlie's saying, oh, it's not the only way you can make money. And yeah, obviously it's not the only way you can make money, but if you were coming from nothing, becoming a farmer and expanding the borders of society and kind of building that out, building up something new on your own land, that can be your way out. And it's just not an option for a lot of people these days.
82% of the 1% are white. 7% are Asian. Please continue, Charlie.
Damn, Sake Tanuki, bringing the stats out. Thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs, Sake. Poverty is the infection. Wrong. Poverty is yet another symptom. The infection is capitalism, my friends.
Well, I do recognize that a lot of companies and aspects
hold on a second. Why
come in.
Forget the supply chain, forget the land. Land is basically all owned by white people in America, okay? Yet Asians, Indians are by far the richest group.
Yeah, well, let's just, investigate that a little bit. Why might that be? Why might that be? Could it be that it's because a lot of those people in our country have come via immigration, and, well, immigration to this country selects for wealth, and so people who wind up coming here, legally, generally, are wealthy people. And so, yeah, it's actually not surprising that, in fact, that would be the case. But Charlie's, I'm gonna guess, is not gonna give that context.
So why is it that this particular group that happens to own the land and the supply chains, and we've admitted it's very hard to run this land, very hard to run this idea of farming in South Africa, is that it feels to me, I could be wrong, that it's a group of resentment-driven politics
Good night,
towards a group
Liliana
of people
Young.
that own land
Get good
instead
sleep.
of opportunity and empowerment-based politics, talking to the black majority about how they could build a better life for themselves instead of taking away other people's stuff.
Well, maybe the question could be as well, why do you think white South Africans that pretty much acquired that land through unjust means are so apprehensive and they don't really want to break even or probably give up much of the land that was stolen?
Hold on, that's a mindset issue. There's plenty in America that gets labeled as quote unquote stolen. Plenty. However, it doesn't necessarily always hold back every ethnic group that is in the country, that is even in the minority of the country. And so I guess the question is, it's a mindset. I don't know South African law enough. I don't know if it's
being colonized is just a mindset, bro. It's just a mindset. Being bought by the British East India Company, being bought by them, it's just a mindset, bro.
a free market base. I really don't. I'm not just playing cute. But as a general operating principle, it's very...
Yeah, apartheid was just a mindset. Exactly, Trainmon.
Bad to build a political movement around taking other people's stuff because obsessed with what you don't have instead of the mental energy to create what you want and what you think you deserve. We've seen this with a lot of groups to America, and America is a very interesting petri dish because we have a lot of people that come to our country with nothing. We have Cubans, we have Venezuelans, we have Colombians, we have Persians, and a rule is the group that complains the least and focuses all of their combined cultural energy on creation does really well over multiple years. That might not be possible in South Africa. There might be like no process to create wealth, but I would just venture a guess that market principles transcend borders.
Huh, you know, that's a really interesting point to make there, Charlie. If market principles transcend borders, then, well, it kind of seems like the market principles you're talking about should be, or at least very, very well could be, the underlying cause to this problem you are pointing out. You know, like, it's so bizarre to me. He's like, yep, it's a universal market force. Okay, do you not see how like that would lead a lot of the problems and perverse incentive structure back to that overarching system of capital? Like, do you really not get it? SSV Cloud, thank you for the $5 super chat.
Jack, how do you feel about the State of Play and or the Summer Game Fest?
I haven't actually watched either. I've been too busy and, too busy doing my job and also having a mental breakdown.
We're so close to the Clandis Owens. Democrats want to put black people on the mental plantation. We want to put them on the physical plantations.
It's true, Sake Tanuki. Like, I mean... Like, I can't even do the face he's doing. Ugh. See you, Van Briggs.
So my postulation, and I'm glad you admitted it, don't say kill the boars. Bad, we should say that. It has created real deaths and real harm. If I was in charge, which of course I'm not, I would spend all my time not saying kill the boar. I would say, my people, get your act together. Let's work harder. Let's prove the boar wrong. Let's start a business.
Just start a business in the face of colonialism. Hey, Hey, Charlie, what typically makes starting a business a lot easier? I'm just curious. What typically makes anyone in chat? What typically makes starting a business a lot easier? Anyone want to throw an idea out there? Couple of different ideas. Let's start a farm. Okay, on what land exactly, Snoogan? You got it. As well as capital, investments. I'm seeing it from assets and capital. Yes. Having money. Yes. Twitchytism. Capital, indeed. Including the land. Yes, what makes starting a business a lot easier is having a place to do the business. And also having capital. And I imagine if you don't have the capital to buy land, it's harder for you to have the capital to start a business. It's not easy to do. You often have to spend money to make money, and if you are in an economically disadvantaged group, it is hard to spend the money to make the money.
Build families. One is driven in resentment and greed and envy and confiscation, and one is rooted in...
No, one is built on the foundations historical to your location. Like I'm sorry, but like historically in America, we stole hundreds of years of wages from enslaved people and gave it to people who by and large went on to become incredibly wealthy. And like when we talk about reparations for that, we're talking about paying a collective debt that our society has been built on. Our prosperity was built on the suffering and like theft from millions of people over hundreds of years. And like recognizing that is good, actually. And, it is an attempt to restore our humanity and offer redress for some of the greatest and most heinous crimes of all time. And hey, maybe there are ways we can do that benefit a lot of folks. And I think that there are. But I don't think that idea leads to resentment. I don't think recognizing the historical wrong that still has systemic ramifications to this day, I don't think that is wrong to recognize or seek to address.
In creation and entrepreneurship and optimism. I'd like to see the latter.
Well, it's very interesting you call it confiscation. What about if we call it probably reclaiming the land that was stolen back in the days?
Yeah, but here's the thing as well. Fair, okay, but can I please, okay.
Maybe it's what kind of understanding the value of land, right? Much of what happens with land is obviously, and I think a very prominent economist talks about this, a guy called Hernando de Soto in his book, The Mystery of Capital.
I know Hernando.
Yeah, he talks about it really. When it comes to land, the value of land is that obviously you can borrow against it. And we've seen for much of agriculture commission.
Yep, exactly. Exactly like what I was talking about when it comes to houses. If you have a house passed on to you, you can take out a loan
You're
against that
just so
house.
resentful and toxic about wanting back these things that I have rightfully stolen.
Exactly. As opposed to framing it as resentment for like, and I'm not, I need to look up more about what is South Africa's program for this type of, like, reparation program. I need to look up more details about it, but it really does seem that Charlie's very focused on the resentment of people who want a redress of past wrongs versus the resentment of people who've benefited from theft and slavery, you know? I think maybe we should be more concerned about one than the other, and I think it might be the opposite of what Charlie is formulating.
Land, which is very expensive, really.
Legit, I
yeah,
get it.
and that's the thing, right? So if you own land pretty much everywhere, you can extract a lot of value out of it.
So can I interject really quick? Let's try another moral principle. Is it ever right to punish a grandchild for their grandfather's sins?
Not necessarily, but
well, hold on. Your
context. Well, context is very important.
They did not steal the land. Someone related to them stole the land. So why punish them? They look like them. They talk like them. They were related to them. But you are talking about actively punishing.
I mean, like, I'm just coming up with this off the top of my head, but like, I feel like the issue here is not. A better analogy would be, oh, you're not punishing a child for something their grandfather did, but like, what you're recognizing is that, like, I don't know, the grandfather dug a gigantic pit, like a death pit, and it's on like the neighbor's side of the property line. Like, at a certain point, like, the descendant, whoever inherits that property, is still going to be obligated under law to fill that pit in, because that relationship, that dynamic still exists between these two homes. You know, like, there is still a responsibility to get that done, and that, you know, the labor, it might be done by someone, but like, you're still gonna have to pay someone to do it. You are inheriting some of those debts in a way. Why won't the pain end? We have like 5 minutes left, or 4 minutes left.
A human being that did not do the atrocity.
I'm not saying we should actively punish them, right?
Okay, but you're saying, I just want to make sure I'm clear. You went back to these three principles: making wrong the justice, redistributing.
Yes. So correcting the injustice, I think.
So with correcting the justice, let's say theoretically it would be that we want some of this land to go back to Black South Africans. That's confiscation, right? No, you no longer own it. This group's going to own it. Therefore, you are punishing a grandkid for the sin of a grandfather. How is that morally defensible?
Like, I'm sorry, but like, maybe another good example here is like, your dad is a mafia boss and he dies. And then it turns out that a ton of the money that he passed on to you in his will was actually stolen money. Now, are you being punished if that stolen money is taken by the state? Are you being punished if the money your, like, mafia dad stole or extorted is taken out of your bank account? Yeah, exactly. Another good example, Brutus Magnuson. If the grandchild of an SS officer has Nazi gold, he didn't participate, but that gold isn't his. Exactly.
I think it gets back to the same thing. And how is it more defensible if, say, the land that you own at the moment was stolen land, and it has over time created a massive disparity economically for much of the majority of Black people out there. So they could make the same argument as well.
Fair enough. And we would say, but the code that we believe in the West, and South Africa can choose, that inheritance, something that you did not work for, and all of a sudden that you have, and that you are then nurturing, we're not going to take that away from you if you did not do anything individually wrong, because this is the difference. We believe in individual-based, not collectivist group-based politics. So they're saying this group took this from this group, therefore this group must get something else. We're asking, did that individual do anything wrong? That individual is a different person than the grandfather. So what is the solution? The solution is for Black South Africans to understand the injustice, and I'll grant you all that. I know nothing about the 1913. I should learn about it, and thank you for bringing that to my attention, right? But I do know that there was a lot of immoral behavior to the let's say the gaining of the land, right?
That's right.
I acknowledge that. Fine. The question is then what to do. And a general rule that has worked in America, and I'll kind of repeat my point, is the group, whomever it is, if they have a mentality and a mantra that is about creation and not about resentment, will succeed. This is actually really bad for even the people.
So again, Charlie's solution to like your dad stole a bunch of money is that you get to keep all of that money. Like that's crazy. That's fucking nuts, man. Oh yeah, look, I know my dad stole $1 million from you guys, but you know, just if you work really hard and you have the right attitude about it, you can really overcome that. No, you don't need any of my money. It's my money now. I got it from my granddad.
Even if they got all the land back, let me tell you, it would not necessarily be a good thing. Number one, we've already shown that they can't necessarily manage it. It's very hard. The Boers have developed a method of farming in the last 100 years.
How do you justify that?
Well, because I just told you, and you agreed with me. I asked a question, which I think I knew, and you affirmed it. The Black South African farmers are not nearly as productive as the equivalent Boer farmers. They're not. The same land, same fertile soil.
It's not the same land nor the same fertile soil. That's not how farms work, Charlie. Some farms have better soil than other farms. Man has the softest hands in goddamn conservosphere.
The farms equivalent are not as necessarily productive. But again, just as a general rule, and we can have clarity but not agreement, I think it's
all dirt is the same dirt. One of the dumbest, like, city slickers alive.
Bad idea to nationalize complaints into a political movement. I think it's very dangerous. And then the right, we fall into this sometimes too. In South Africa, it's even more dangerous to weaponize racial complaints, despite the injustices of past. It's a better use of time to talk about a victor mindset, not a victim mindset.
Yeah. You guys got rid of apartheid like 30 years ago. Yeah, you're good. You guys need to stop talking about race. Nothing racist or racial is happening whatsoever in South Africa. You guys just keep feeling victimized by it. You need to let it go. Ugh, apartheid was so long ago. Sure, some of you were alive then, but like, so long ago.
Yeah, I think it's easily said than done. That would be my kind of thinking.
But it's simply a mindset. Yeah, but the groups that embrace it in America and across the West, they succeed. The Jews have had a lot of crap thrown at them the last 100 years. They get their act together, they organize, they understand how to, create wealth.
What?
And again, I would say...
Whoa! What the fuck, man? Jesus Christ. Well, that was an anti-Semitic curveball that I did not see coming. Like, holy shit. I feel compelled to like try and mock that, but I feel like I would veer into being offensive for trying to touch that. So I'm just going to point out that due to the complicated history of how Jewish people have been treated and otherized throughout Europe, the material circumstances of Jews in Europe allowed them to have and hold positions that allowed them to build up a certain amount of power in a certain select set of circumstances, okay? And you always have to keep caveating that because, like, there were parts of Europe that were purging, like, Jewish communities. There are parts of Europe where, like, Jewish people were, by and large, not allowed within any, like, towns or cities. They had to live on, like, the outskirts of society, kind of wandering. And in the case that they did find a place where they were welcome, like, it would be a specific quarter of the city that they were allowed to live in, like, and sometimes they would not be allowed out of it, right? And for Uncle Gumball. Okay, sorry. Unmute. Sorry, Uncle. There you go. And one of the reasons in Europe Jewish people were able to build up a certain amount of power, economically speaking, was because Christendom, which Charlie very much supports, viewed the application of interest as a sin. However, Jews do not believe that interest is a sin. And so they were, in some circumstances, allowed to hold positions at banks in order to kind of create a loophole whereby, you know, Christians could use banks, but like weren't the ones charging interest, so it was fine. And this is a position that continued historically through over centuries throughout Europe, and it is ultimately what gave birth to the idea that like Jewish people are good with money, and you know, Jewish people, like you know the stereotypes, right? And understand that it's actually pretty anti-Semitic to like for Charlie to be making this point, right? Like it's drawing off of this historical oppression and discrimination that Jews received throughout Europe and for centuries, if not millennia. And like it's a historical reality, right? Like that happened. I minored in medieval history. I can tell you that is basically the dynamic. And it's what gave rise to like the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that like the Jews run the world and it's because they run all the banks. And if you hear Alex Jones talking about globalists, that is why it's a you know, anti-Semitic dog whistle for Jews. You know, it's when they're talking about globalists, the globalist agenda, the new world order, all this stuff, they're talking about this pretty ancient anti-Semitic trope. I think the only one that's older is blood libel. The idea that like Jews drink the blood of like children or use the blood of children for like magic rituals and whatever, and that's been incorporated in like QAnon stuff. That's where like that's the entire basis for like adrenochrome as a concept. It is building off of that blood libel anti-Semitism, right? And yeah, other ideas like the Jews killed Jesus. Like these are different concepts that have been hit upon time and time again by anti-Semites throughout history, right? So, yeah, understand that, like, when Charlie is talking about this, like, just do what Jewish people did. Like, understand that the situation of Jewish people is the result of historical context and material conditions, and that same context and those same conditions are not available for Black South Africans by and large. So like the comparison doesn't make sense. That I wanted to like lay all of that out so that folks could understand what he's saying is meaningless, you know? Yeah, Mithril, Shakespeare, I agree. Shakespeare's most problematic play is The Merchant of Venice, specifically because The Merchant of Venice, like, is one colossal anti-Semitic trope of the kind that Charlie is currently engaging in, you know?
There are many groups that are parallel to that. So you want to make a final point?
And understand that is derived mostly because Charlie is a specific kind of evangelical Christian who believes that Jewish people should return to Israel in order to fulfill ancient biblical prophecy about the second coming of Christ, which will then lead to the end of the world where, you know, everyone is obliterated except for the good boys and girls, the good Christians, you know? So like his ultimate aim is specifically like let's kill everyone who's not us. You know?
I don't know how we are in time, but
yeah,
I don't recall that play. I'm assuming the stereotype is that Jews are greedy. Yeah, it's the play that originated the concept of a pound of flesh, like the one of the main contentions or points of dramatic tension in The Merchant of Venice is that a Jewish businessman made a loan, and one of the characters who's supposed to be sympathetic can't pay him back. And so the Jewish businessman is going to take a pound of flesh as payment instead. He's gonna cut it out of the main character in order to have his due. And that, if you've ever heard the term pound of flesh, it's a reference to The Merchant of Venice. God, yeah, it's pretty fucked up, guys.
Charlie Kirk is just spinning Nazi mysticism here.
Yeah, no, very much so. This is why, by the way, What If Alt Hist is definitely in circles like this, because they are post a need for facts. Like, Charlie Kirk is one of the few people who continues to actually do debates, and like, if you know anything about what he's talking about, like, he looks like a fool. But the issue is, a lot of the people who listen to Charlie Kirk never watch videos like mine, where I explain it in great detail how he's just wrong and ill-informed and belligerent. That being belligerent doesn't mean you have the correct point of view in a debate, you know?
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, again, we have clarity. I would like to see, of course, an end of the kill the Boers. But my hope for South Africa is one that is rooted in empowerment and lifting up and optimism, not being like, well, something bad happened to my grandfather, therefore it impacts me. It actually doesn't impact you as much as you think. You're a free being.
It doesn't impact you as much as you would think. Uh-huh.
With your own agency and your own ability. Was it wrong? Yes. Is it inhibiting? I would say no.
Sure. Did your grandfather live and die under apartheid? Was your dad born under apartheid? Huh, well, it didn't affect you as much as you might think. Like, Jesus Christ, can you imagine Charlie saying that to, like, genuinely, I'm left agog at his debating skills. And that is the most charitable thing I can say.
Yeah, I would say that I think cooperation is probably the pathway going forward. And I think breaking even is a good thing, because the Expropriation Act actually does pretty much cut for that, where much of the land that's not being used can then be shared. And
I will look into it.
I think that'll be a better way to go.
I'll read more about it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, that was rough. That was rough.
Why does his suit fit so badly? It's too small and there's collar gap.
Because, I mean, he's got no riz. Look at the shoes. Oh man, you can't get the I want to get this little thing off.
Proof organizing is the way. Chris Cluey helped with other public library advocates have 2 ballot measures to protect libraries from the MAGA Council are way ahead by a large margin.
Oh hell yeah, Andrew S. Thank you for the good news and the $10 super chat. I appreciate that. And Saki Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. It's just very clear that like Charlie Kirk doesn't have riz. Like he's wearing like not even good tennis shoes with this suit. Like his suit is not good. I think it's all part of his aesthetic. He's trying to look relatable, despite, you know, being Charlie Kirk, one of the most alien motherfuckers around. That got real fucking racist real fast? Yep. Because Charlie Kirk is a white nationalist, guys. He is a racist. Anyway, we have now braved fire and flame. We've made it all the way through, and that was truly suffering.
He's doing yin/yang, mask/femme Jungian gender essentialism and mysticism. I'd bet money that Charlie Kirk believed that young white men are going crazy, Odin, because they are not allowed to express their masculinity.
Oh, no. He basically made that argument earlier. He basically made that money earlier, that like society is being feminized, and in as a result, young men are going crazy and embracing like red pill shit. You know, like he argues that like that is already happening, you know? Also, thank you for the $20 super chat, One-Eyed Heathen. I very, very much appreciate that. And folks, we've now been going for over 3 hours now. If you've been enjoying the show, please hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Consider dropping those subs, donos, memberships, super chats, etc. because you guys allow me to continue doing this show. And full disclosure, I'm going to need all the subs and donos I can get so that I can take like several days off so I can like move stuff into my office so that and also so that I can afford the renovation and the move. So you guys might all have to help me a little bit extra to make that possible. I'll think of some fun things I can do to help incentivize you guys. I think that would be really fun though. Okay? I'm requesting that you read my dono comment because I think it's important for young did it not read the dono message? I run a tight budget, but when I get paid next week, I'll drop a dono. Thank you very much, Quantum Mechanic. Comrade Girl 2018, thank you for the $10 super chat. Well, white nationalists are white supremacists. Love the channel. Thank you. Doing my best. I mean, I thought I responded to your comment, One-Eyed Heathen, but to make you happy, he's doing yin yang, mask, femme, Jungian, gender essentialism, and mysticism. I'd bet money that Charlie Kirk believes that young white men are going crazy, Odin, because they are not allowed to express their masculinity. And I said, yes, that is exactly, in fact, what Charlie Kirk believes. He made that argument earlier, and in fact, said that men are going crazy because countries are becoming too feminine. And like, I just want to ask, like, what does it mean for a country to be too feminine? That doesn't, like, Charlie Kirk is the kind of guy who's like a, you know, he's like, oh well, you're only male or female. You know, there's no other genders. It's just male and female, and then we'll go on to say that like countries are female, and like that doesn't make sense. But yeah. White nationalist is a softened synonym. I'm sorry. I don't know anyone who's like, oh, you're not a white supremacist. You're just a white nationalist. Okay, you're fine then. Like, I don't know. I don't think anyone believes that. Would you ever consider doing a segment on Shakespeare? You sound like you have a good background knowledge, and I think not enough folk hear Shakespeare being analyzed nowadays. I think it'd be really, really fun sometime to like just do like a live read of a Shakespeare play and like talk about it as we go over it. I think that would be really, really fun. Is he a what if alt his kind of guy? I don't know what you're asking, Alan Smith. Who? Charlie thinks feminine is the dark side of the Force from Star Wars. Yes, that's why he's... No, I'm not going to make the joke I wanted to make. What play would you want to do this on? I'd probably be boring and start with Hamlet. I like Hamlet a lot. Is Charlie Kirk crazy like what if alt his? No, he's not. Charlie Kirk is just like a genuine believer in like Christian nationalism, you know? And his brand of Christian nationalism is also very much rooted in white supremacy. Anyway, we did it, everyone. We made it through the segment. Huzzah! Huzzah forever! All done with that.
I've been running a theory for about a decade plus now that Fortinbras, the young, is the ghost at the beginning.
Interesting. Thank you for the 2 tier 1 sub, Sake Tanuki. I just now you're making me want to read Hamlet again so I can take a look. I love the room for interpretation in Shakespeare. It's so fun. I don't see much of segment streamers anymore. I don't know what that means, but like I don't know. I like having cohesive topics that we can talk about and go over. Also, Greaves Underground, thank you for the membership gifted over on YouTube. I appreciate it very, very much. Need to head to bed. Good night, Andrew S. Also, wish me luck, folks. Tomorrow's going to be real hard for me, and I don't know if I'm going to be streaming tomorrow night. My mileage is going to vary quite a bit. We'll see what happens. Just as a heads up. I'm also going to head to bed. Good luck. Thank you very, very much. Everything all right? Not really, but I'm doing my best. Okay, so my question is, do I play another hour of Dragon Age the Veilguard, or do I go to bed? Which do I do, chat? Thanks, Mithril. Thank you, Amber Brains. Nothing is okay, and that's okay. I don't know, are you tired? I could sleep. Bed, extra hour of sleep. You're right. You guys are looking out for me. I will see you all tomorrow. Maybe. We'll see. And good night, everybody. Get good sleep. Be excellent to each other. Thank you all for looking out. Good night.